frustration get the better of you and make you do things you should never do. You got to keep the faith, you can't surrender. You never know, tomorrow may be brighter. Behind every dark cloud, there's a silver lining. So don't give up hope now. We gotta keep on trying. Oh Lord, we gotta keep on going. We gotta keep on moving on. As long as you have health and strength, reaching your goal, nothing should prevent. Every time you fall, get up again. Don't sit down there like that and complain. You got to stand up and continue fighting. Don't give up, keep courage, you must win. Don't you know, behind every dark cloud, there's a silver lining. So don't give up hope now. We gotta keep on trying. Oh Lord, we gotta keep on going. We gotta keep on moving on. Obstacles will get in the way, stumbling blocks to hinder your day. But you can't afford to let them stop you. No matter how hard it is to go through, you got to stand up and continue fighting. Endurance shall win in the ending. Don't you know, behind every dark cloud, there's a silver lining. So don't give up hope now. We gotta keep on trying. Oh Lord, we gotta keep on going. We gotta keep on moving on. Be of a strong, positive mind. Negative thoughts, leave them behind. We got to go forward in sure certainty. Let no element humbug that possibility. But if you give up, you have no way of knowing if next day would have brought good tidings. Don't you know, behind every dark cloud, there's a silver lining. So don't give up hope now. We gotta keep on trying. Oh Lord, we gotta keep on going. We gotta keep on moving on. Behind every dark cloud, there's a silver lining. So don't give up hope now. We gotta keep on trying. We gotta keep on going. We gotta keep on moving on. We know it's a long and winding road, and we got a heavy load, but we have to hold it straight. Get up and try again, because behind every dark cloud,
Keep me as the apple of thine eye. Hide me under the shadow of thy wing. O Lord, my Savior. It's so hard to deal with personal struggle. So sad when you feel alone in your trouble. It's real hard when you want to talk to a brother. It's so bad because of how some look at you after. So Jesus, cover me while you fix it. Cover me while you fix it. Cover me while you fix it. Jesus, cover me. Cover me while you fix it. Cover me while you fix it. Cover me while you fix it. Jesus, cover me. Cover my head. Satan want me dead. Cover my back from human attack. So Jesus, cover me while you fix it. Cover me while you fix it. Jesus, cover me while you fix it. Jesus, cover me. People see you smile, but don't know the hurt that you're feeling. Even as God's child, at times your heart does be bleeding. Where can you go when you're really looking for healing? Who know how to flow when your soul needs some restoring? So Jesus, cover me while you fix it. Cover me while you fix it. Jesus, cover me while you fix it. Jesus, cover me. Cover me while you fix it. Cover me while you fix it. Jesus, cover me while you fix it. Jesus, cover me. Cover me home from evils unknown. Cover my feet so I'll never retreat. Oh Lord, cover me while you fix it. Cover me while you fix it. Cover me while you fix it. Jesus, cover me. Cover my brother, cover my sister, them who under pressure. Cover the preacher, every church worker, the young believer. Cover the worship leader and intercessor, every gospel minister. Cover. Jesus alone is the one who has the real answer. The one on the throne is the true and loving Father. He will hold your hand and keep you from going under. He will make you stand and let you know he's a fixer. Cover me while you fix it. Cover me while you fix it. Jesus, cover me while you fix it. Jesus, cover me. Cover me while you fix it. Cover me while you fix it. Cover me while you fix it. Jesus, cover me. Cover me mind. You know the struggle sometimes. Cover me mouth, that the wrong thing wouldn't come out. Oh Lord, cover me while you fix it. Cover me while you fix it. Cover me while you fix it. Jesus, cover me. Cover the Christian in the midst of aggression with the power of your right hand. Jesus, cover them helpless children. Jesus, defend them. Send help from heaven. Jesus, cover all them radio stations that blessing the nation. Grant divine protection. Jesus, cover me.
Truer words were never spoken. The less you associate with some people, the more your life will improve. Anytime you tolerate mediocrity in others, it increases your mediocrity. An important attribute in successful people is their impatience with negative thinking and negative acting people. As you grow, your associates will change. Some of your friends will not want you to go on. They will want you to stay where they are. Friends that don't help you climb will want you to crawl. Your friends will stretch your vision or choke your dream. Those that don't increase you will eventually decrease you. Consider this. Never receive counsel from unproductive people. Never discuss your problems with someone incapable of contributing to the solution, because those who never succeed themselves are always first to tell you how. Not everyone has a right to speak into your life. You are certain to get the worst of the bargain when you exchange ideas with the wrong person. Don't follow anyone who's not going anywhere. With some people, you spend an evening. With others, you invest it. Be careful where you stop to inquire for directions along the road of life. Wise is the person who fortifies his life with the right friendships. If you run with wolves, you will learn how to howl. But if you associate with eagles, you will learn how to soar to great heights. A mirror reflects a man's face, but what he is really like is shown by the kind of friends he chooses. The simple but true fact of life is that you become like those with whom you closely associate, for the good and the bad. Note, be not mistaken. This is applicable to family as well as friends. Yes, do love, appreciate, and be thankful for your family, for they will always be your family, no matter what. Just know that they are human first, and though they are family to you, they may be a friend to someone else and will fit somewhere in the criteria above. In prosperity, our friends know us. In adversity, we know our friends. Never make someone a priority when you are only an option for them. If you are going to achieve excellence in big things, you develop the habit in little matters. Excellence is not an exception. It is a prevailing attitude.
Let me say a special hello to all the WZYE 95.9 FM listeners, of course, ladies and gentlemen. It's Sunday Talk, Let's Talk Politics, with yours truly, Professor Walshed and Uncle Tommy and you, on WZYE 95.9 FM. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, we come to you every Sunday from 1 to 4 p.m. From 1 to 4 p.m. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, as you come in, remember we are streaming live on WZYE 95.9 FM on Facebook, WZYE TV on YouTube, WZYE 95.9 FM on Twitter or X. And folks, if you like what we do here, share the live to someone who's going to appreciate the information that we give out here every Sunday on Sunday Talk, Let's Talk Politics. So yes, share the live to those who want to hear serious talk, where we originate and we don't imitate. And this is how we start the thing.
Ansam LeBon and Marshall Nesbitt solemnly swear to conduct this radio program in a true, fair, and balanced manner, ensuring that all perspectives are given equal consideration and that the information presented is objective and unbiased. We pledge to provide a platform where diverse voices can be heard, fostering open and constructive dialogue that serves the best interests of our audience and community. Our commitment is to uphold the principles of journalistic integrity and ethical broadcasting throughout the duration of this program. Thank you.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The only talk program on the planet, yes, the only talk program on the planet with an oath/pledge to the people that listen to us here on Sunday Talk, Let's Talk Politics, with yours truly, Professor Walshed and Uncle Tommy. Yes, yes, of course, ladies and gentlemen. As we said, we originate, we don't imitate. Let me say welcome to Marilyn. Marilyn, welcome. Happy Easter to each and every one. Yes. Indira, welcome as well. Budram John. Good afternoon, Budram. Curtis Monteshard, boy. My Chumakanian friend. Yeah. Bijram said, lock on from fishing pond. I beat the bubili yesterday. A real bubili. Oh, yeah, yeah. Bijram beat up a bubili yesterday, boy. But you know, y'all, we don't celebrate. We don't beat bubili in America. Oh, God. So I'm waiting for my host, my co-host, Uncle Tommy, to join me. He's going to be joining me shortly. Now, folks, coming up at the top of the hour, we have the NTA political leader and former Commissioner of Police, Gary Griffith. He's going to join us in another hour or so. And of course, you know, we thank you for joining us. And I know some of you may have some questions for Mr. Griffith. And you know how we do it here. You know, we always ask questions to our guests here on Sunday Talk, Let's Talk Politics. So, folks, There is never a dull day in Trinidad and Tobago. Never a dull day. But I even think before we go to Trinidad and Tobago, I want to go to Haiti just to show you all some of the things that are happening in Haiti. And, you know, I am somewhat scared, so to speak, that if the possibility of some of these things actually happening as well in Trinidad and Tobago. I remember back then, one of our ardent listeners and supporters here, Albert Montano, he used to say that, that he was wondering if Trinidad and Tobago could ever get like Haiti. And we were telling him, Tommy and I were very adamant that no, Trinidad and Tobago could never get like Haiti. We could never ever get to that point where we get like Haiti, ever. Let me see this. Okay. We could never ever get like Haiti, but I have a few reports that I also read. I don't think we're gonna have time to go over this. Some UN reports on poverty in Trinidad and Tobago. You all will be shocked and amazed. Shocked and amazed. I was even amazed. Well, no, I really wasn't amazed. Because I already know that in Trinidad and Tobago, over the past 9 years, that the amount of black people living below the poverty line, which is 26% or more, is twice times the next group in Trinidad and Tobago. So I want you all to take in this video here. This is a video about Haiti. And, it's kind of sad. It's very sad. And we are hoping and praying that our beloved country of Trinidad and Tobago could never become like this. So take a listen.
You see this crowd torn apart. This is Haiti, and people are like in a battle trance. I don't know. They're smashing everything around them. No one is afraid of the armed police. Defending government buildings here is clearly not that simple. Look, for instance, this police car has no windshield, as if they've removed it to shoot directly from inside the cabin. They've reinforced the bumpers with metal structures to smash other things and break through barricades. Just chaos. All this is happening on the streets of the capital city, Port-au-Prince. There you go.
It has come to the point that the bandits in Haiti have seized the main airport in the country and closed it. They set fire to several police stations and stormed 2 prisons, releasing 4,000 criminals, some bandits, damn if I know what they were sitting there for. At the same time, the police are paralyzed. You see, people, if they want to ask for help, they don't call 911 in Haiti now, they call the radio so that someone can hear them, come and help them in any way possible. The death toll is already in the tens. It's impossible to say exactly how many people have died. Today we will try to figure out what happened in this small country, who sees power in it, and what will happen next. This is Liadoff and how people live, or rather survive, in Haiti.
This is a new assault by armed gangs who control much of our country's capital, the capital of Haiti, Port-au-Prince. Port-au-Prince and its surroundings are set ablaze. Police officers and hundreds of people have been killed. The gangs have set fire and destroyed police stations, as well as public and private buildings.
You will hear this voiceover more than once today. We found someone who agreed to show us life in Haiti today, as it truly is, but he will stay behind the scenes. And I can't even tell you his name because journalists are simply killed here for filming on the streets. In the last 3 years, at least 5 journalists have been killed here for trying to investigate the crimes of thugs. One of the recent incidents involved Dumeski Carson photographing the site of another gunfight when some man approached him and demanded his photos. When he refused, he was simply shot in the head. Haiti is now 3rd after Syria and Somalia on the list of most dangerous places for journalists to work. particularly because attacks on them are not investigated. But specifically for the People channel, this brave man agreed to go out onto the street with a camera to interview local residents.
We were ambushed by bandits. It was terrifying. I had to kneel before them. Then they made me sit down. They spotted a few guys nearby, pointed their guns at them and said, "Join our fight or we'll kill you right here."
This lawlessness is not happening somewhere in a back alley or behind garages. It's in the very center of the city, right opposite the presidential palace. The criminals made this woman kneel and threatened young men right here.
I was able to escape from these bandits and tried to hide in a school building where there were many other people. Then the police came and kicked us out. There were constant gunshots in the street. I didn't know where to go and wandered around. I had several bags in my hands, all my things. My tears I couldn't even wipe away. I didn't understand what was happening. I was crying all the time. In the end, some motorcyclists picked me up and dropped me off here.
During the next escalation, peaceful people, predominantly women and children, are trying to escape from the city on foot. Tent camps are growing outside the capital, where everyone holds what they can. Look at a man with a carpet. We'll only sleep on it under the open sky for the upcoming weeks, maybe even a month. Buckets, umbrellas, canisters. People bring everything that could help them survive. The refugees pass by the message on the wall. All people are equal, which in such conditions looks simply sarcastic.
Are you saying that your house burned down completely?
Yes, completely. I couldn't save anything. My son also lost everything. He really lost everything. I have neither money nor clothes. Organizations are recording my name and data, but I haven't received anything yet. We used to get hot food, but we haven't received anything for several days. I'm with my daughter in this camp. She went to get me hot food, but apparently she hasn't found anything yet because she hasn't returned.
Have you lost any family members in a bandit attack in your area?
No, I haven't lost any family or close friends. Only our house. It was completely destroyed.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on in Haiti? Many of you may know, many of you may not know. We are hoping that this does not come to TNT. We are hoping and praying, but I can think about Trinidad and Tobago ever becoming like that with the problems they have in Haiti. But, folks, it's gang related. The gangs are in charge. The gangs are running the asylum. And it appears that in Trinidad and Tobago, it's coming close to where the gangs are running the asylum. You remember when I put up that those 4 buildings up in Laventil? Those 4 buildings up there where the government has basically just left those buildings there and turning such for some other buildings. All right. So those things are of serious concern to many of us in Trinidad and Tobago. But at the top of many of our lips in Trinidad and Tobago is property tax. Property tax. And I am amazed that what some RPNM callers, I call them RPNM callers. And the sad part about it is that many of these people appears to be pensioners. And they're supporting this property tax like if it's in nothing. And the people who can pay this property tax without a problem have problems with it. Well, let me put it this way. It appears to me that the poor RPNM people have no problems with property tax. But the rich people of Trinidad and Tobago have serious problems with property tax. It just doesn't make sense. Here in the United States of America, many people have problems paying property tax. And they question their property tax almost every year, year after year after year. However, in Trinidad and Tobago, we have people calling the radio station and saying, I am ashamed that people don't want to pay property tax. Listen to this. Listen.
Caller, go right ahead.
Oh, thank you. You know, it is terribly sad because what you're thinking of the citizenry of Trinidad and Tobago, how can people not want to pay taxes? How come? And making one believe that like it's every Monday morning you have to pay a tax that you have to pay once a year to maintain the country where you live. How can you not want to participate in that? And this kind of a way as though, well, you know, it's so much and it's so overbearing and the taxes. I mean, as long as there were governments, we pay tax. The property tax is nothing new. With all of this hullabaloo that's going on, this is nothing new. My father, once he's making that budget out there, you had better believe he had these taxes. When he couldn't go himself, he used to be called my brother, hey, go, I want you to pay the tax, you know, making sure. And people were proud to pay their taxes. I mean, ever since time immemorial, hence the saying, render unto Caesar what is Caesar. Because as long as we had governments, taxes had to be paid. Making people believe that is every Monday morning you have to pay this tax. That is not right. Look, it's shameless to tell you the truth. I am ashamed. But they know why they're behaving like that.
Can you imagine that? Someone calling the radio station and saying that she's ashamed of having to pay property tax, of people having to pay property tax. She's not ashamed of herself. She wants to pay the property tax, but she's ashamed that people are questioning the property tax. Ma'am, you know why people are questioning the property tax? Because it is regressive and oppressive. That is why people are questioning the property tax. You don't have to, you don't want to question it. You can pay it. But you are in the minority. People are questioning the property tax because it's regressive and oppressive. And you know what? Not only that, but when I watched this video and it talked about the valuation of properties in Trinidad and Tobago, and the Minister of Finance said explaining to people, well, if you get a valuation, you could just go and get a private valuator. Let that person come and value your property, and then you can go to whether it's the Board of Finance, Board of Inland Revenue, or wherever you have to go, and you can query it. But the goodly minister didn't tell the people of Trinidad and Tobago that in order for you to get a valuator, what it will cost. So think about this. You got a property tax bill. You're living up in Chumaka, Clavantil, and your property tax, for example, is $1,500 for the year. Let's just say, all right, $1,000 for the year. The goodly minister is telling people all you could go and get a private valuator. But he didn't tell them what it will cost. So I want you all to listen to this. He didn't tell them that, you know. It make it look kind of good, like you could just go and get a valuator and the valuator will give you a value. But Mr. Minister, what about the cost of that valuator? How much would that valuator cost to them people and them? Take a listen to this, folks.
Because when you're going to challenge a valuation, you have to bring a next one. So you'll have to go by a private valuator and ask for a private valuator to value your house. And then you take that and you submit that to the Commission of Valuations, and they say, look, your valuation wrong. And then they go through the process, they measure the house, they take photographs, they check the condition, and so on.
The notice of valuation that is sent to a homeowner from the valuations division simply says that this is what we determine your house could be rented for. It gives you absolutely no information as to what factors they took into account when arriving at that decision, meaning you don't know if it is the size of the house, you don't know if it is the number of bedrooms, you don't know if it's the amenities, you don't know if it's the neighborhood, if it's the access to water, if it's the condition of the roads. You have no idea what they have taken into account to arrive at this particular valuation that they give you of annual rental value. What Minister Imbert is saying is that if you wish to use the process outlined in the law in order to challenge that valuation, you will need to get a private valuator to come and give you a valuation report. And those valuation reports, if you've ever seen one, would detail all of those factors that I just mentioned. What type of fixtures and fittings you have in the house, the size, square footage, the general condition of the neighborhood, the amenities available to that particular area that you live in, etc. I decided to do a little bit of research, and what I've been able to find out is that the industry standard with respect to those valuation reports is 0.25% of the value of the property, but with a minimum charge of $2,000. So the starting point of if you wish to challenge one of these valuations that or this figure that is just dropped into your lap by the valuations division is that you must spend $2,000 to obtain a private valuation report. I'm putting this information out there because I hope that people will make informed decisions when we have the opportunity to go to the polls again and determine what it is you vote for when you have the opportunity to vote. Are you going to vote for a government that will say and impose a tax upon you with absolutely no justification for how they have arrived at that figure, and then tell you that you must find $2,000 at a minimum in order to obtain evidence, for want of a better word, that will support your claim for an objection? Or do you want a government that will build 100 schools, 9 police stations, give laptops to all of the children entering secondary school, build a state-of-the-art children's hospital, remove VAT from over 7,000 food items, and I can go on and on and on? Do you want a government that will do those things without introducing a single new tax against the population of this country? That's the decision you have to make in the year to come.
So, folks, think about it, right? You know, you're standing up on a platform, all big and well, and telling people, oh, you could question your valuation. Doesn't matter if you disagree with it. Where poor people getting $2,000 to question a valuation? Especially them poor RPNM people. Where them getting money from? Where they gonna get it from? And them and it's them, so the rich people questioning the property tax. And the poor people saying, bring it, boy, bring it on. Bring on property tax. I'm see if I can make a call here. So I'm trying something here, folks. Yeah. Bring on the property tax. I have never heard anywhere in the world, and nowhere in the world, where people are saying we have no problems paying property tax. None. Maybe someone could put a message in the chat to let me know.
Hello, good day.
Hi, Miss Lush Media. You are live on WZYE 95.9 FM in New York and New Jersey. Do you have a minute to spare with us?
A bit under the weather at the moment, but I'll try.
Okay. Well, no, I just played a video with when you stated with regards to the valuation that the Minister of Finance had put forward, telling people that, you know, if you have any problem with the valuation, you can just go and get a private valuator and have them value your property and go and question it. But you put into the atmosphere that the minimum cost is $2,000.
Yes, I actually, because when I heard him say that, I became concerned. I mean, I went through the process of getting a valuation once when I was buying property, and it's actually the minimum is 2,000, but it goes up from there because they work it at 0.25% of the value of your property. So what I started to do too is to call around to different agencies, especially the ones who are approved by banks and who are recognized and certified and all of that. Even some smaller ones, smaller people who used to work for valuations and who used to work for BIR and who are now doing this private citizens, right? Because they're retired and so on. And what they are saying is that the cost would be similar if you want to check annual rental value, because the kind of valuation report that they will prepare is not what you're getting from valuations division with just a figure that drop out from the sky. They will come and do site visits and measure and check all the materials used in the ceiling, what kind of wall you have, how much bathrooms, your fixtures, your fittings, your flooring, and all those things. So it's actually going to be very costly, which is why I keep saying I don't believe that that there's any real due process. Whilst the minister tries to deflect from the criticisms of the population about the valuation process being flawed and the inconsistencies, by saying that, well, if you want to object, you can object. There's no way that the average citizen will want to fork out that kind of money and go through that process. Another thing is that valuation reports have an expiration date. They're only valid for a period of time. So you could wait. Typically, if you're going to stamp duty, for example, they will not accept a valuation report beyond 6 months. And if you are going to go to the valuation appeal process, it could last a lot longer than 6 months. So what you're going to have to do, pay to get it updated again and so on. It's a really the process is meaningless when you think about the logistics of it. And to me, it offers really no meaningful relief to citizens who have a problem with these outrageous valuations that they've been getting.
No, Ms. Lakshmi, I know that in Parliament you were talking about the property tax being regressive, and I added on oppressive because we live here in the United States of America and I live in New Jersey, and we pay the highest property tax in the United States of America. Our property tax is 2.33%, and before the government reduced it from 3% to 2%, the property tax in Trinidad was higher than every single state in the United States of America. Every single state.
Yeah. I mean, so a regressive tax, if it's tax law and stuff, they categorize taxes as progressive, regressive, etc. So income tax is a progressive tax. The more you earn is the more you pay, right? Like PAYE. A regressive tax is one that has no bearing to your income earning. And that's what the government is trying to say. They are assuming that because people have an asset that could be rented for a particular value, then that means that that person has that type of income. But you're not considering the number of people who would have inherited properties, in areas which have now become very commercialized. I'm from San Fernando, all right? I could identify places like Cipero Street, Rushwood Street, Todd Street. All of those areas were traditionally residential areas, and you still have people living there in residential areas. But next door to them is a large car firm because Neil and Massey buy out the property and they open up a car firm. It's big commercial buildings going up. So the overall rental value of properties in that area have skyrocketed. The people living there are pensioners or people who inherited property from their parents, and there's it has no bearing. The value of the property has no bearing on the income that they're earning. That's why I said it's regressive. And a regressive tax is one where the percentage of your income being taken up by the tax is it really affects the lower income earning people, because you can have someone earning a low income but who has an asset, right? They own this asset but they don't have a lot of income. So whereas for a rich person, and I use the example in Parliament, if I buy a $2 million property but my salary is $30,000 a month, then how fair is it for me to be in the same position as somebody who, on living on Superior Street in San Fernando, inherited a property that could be rented at a particular price or sold for a particular price, and that person has nowhere close to my income earning capacity? It's unfair, and that's why I believe it to be unfair. The other thing about foreign taxes, I see the PNM like to talk about everybody abroad is paid a tax and some of us pay tax abroad and all this trippiness. when you, and I made reference it in the parliament as well, go online and look at the councils in the UK, or the city council and so on, boroughs and so on in the United States, and look at the level of accountability. Look at the breakdown. Every single year they publish, because they have the data of what they expect to collect in property taxes, how it is going to be spent, how the taxes collected for the last 5, 10 years, how they have been spent. They give a in the UK, for example, they give a proportion, because they have their individual, each council has their fire department, the police department, and so on. Houses burn down every day in Pinal, and they don't even have a proper fire tender. And you have you're coming to tell people living in those areas, well, that land that was formerly agricultural, now because it's on the main road and there's commercial properties going up and so on, it could be rented for 2 million, or it could be rented for $8,000 a month, and they must pay. It's very unfair. It's very unfair. The level of service delivery you get abroad when you pay taxes. All sorts of things are included in foreign taxes. The school districts that you belong to, the public schools in your area are supported by those taxes. What is the government going to, Imbert saying if you want to get water, you should pay property tax. So you're paying WASA, but you must pay property tax to get a truck borne water supply when WASA don't deliver. How does that make sense?
Nah, that absolutely make no sense. So, Mr. Schmidt, just before we let you go, someone says, can you elaborate on tax lien? I guess that's the tax lien that could be put on your property if you don't pay your taxes.
Right. So what the law provides for is that if you don't pay the tax by the date contained in the notice, interest and penalties begin to run. And if you don't, I posted a video on my Facebook page, actually, if anybody wants to look at it, where an interview was conducted with someone who identifies herself as belonging to the Revenue Authority. As you know, the Revenue Authority is transitioning now from the Board of Inland Revenue, right? So they are going to be responsible for collecting taxes. And she was saying that the power there to distrain, and the power to distrain in law, it has existed in the past. And she said in the interview that it has never been used before, but that what they are trying to do now in the Revenue Authority is to ensure greater compliance. Now, we have a lot of concerns about this Revenue Authority, the way that they are appointed. To me, it's something that comes under direct control of the minister. These are not public servants who are going to be insulated by the normal protections of service commissions and so on. So you're going to have a government-appointed Revenue Authority that has the power to distrain, which means that they can come after 2 years of taxes being owed. They can actually move to seize what we call chattels in law. A chattel is anything that's not affixed to the property. So your bed, your fridge, your stove, your furniture, any of your personal belongings, those are chattels that reside in the house. They can seize chattels and sell them to recover the tax. After 5 years of taxes owing, they have the power, if you don't pay it and you don't get this exemption that they're talking about, they can actually move to sell your property. That power exists, and based on that interview that I heard about them trying to ensure stricter compliance, I'm very concerned about that power. And more concerned, though, is that they are not putting any provision into the law to say that whilst an objection is pending, they will not do those things. That you must pay the tax even though you have an objection pending. And I find that to be manifestly unfair, because if you have an objection pending and the state, whether it's the Commission of Valuations, the tribunal, or the High Court, because those are the three levels, right? If they are taking long to determine your objection, and this objection is dragging through the court system, you have to find the money in the interim to pay the tax, or you face interest and penalties, and you can actually face the consequences of them wanting to distrain on your property or even sell your property after a certain number of years. So it's a very it's a piece of legislation that gives the state a lot of power against citizens. And if you have that kind of power being exercised by a government, then you must have certain protections in place. And I enumerated quite a few of them that I expected to see, that we don't see, which is that, when you file the objection process must be fair. Firstly, the valuation process should give more details. If it doesn't, then at least have an objection process that is fairer and more accessible to citizens. You must have this, strict timelines for compliance in terms of rendering a decision by these different bodies that have power to mediate on your objection and so on. And there should be no interest, and there should be no penalties, and there should be no power to distrain or to seize property whilst an objection is pending. And that's my view on that.
No, up here, right? Up here, we can people can buy tax liens. For example, if you have if you owe property tax and you live in a certain community, the community that town you owe that town property tax, you owe them for 5 years. There are people who buy tax lien and they will go after your property and they will just pay the town whatever is owed because the town don't want to be in the business, of
Right.
trying to take a person's property.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any provision in that in Trinidad and Tobago for that for people setting up a tax
No, there's no
company?
there's no provision like that where they can buy the debt. That's like a sort of buying over debts and so on. But with this government, you never know, because I understand that even contractors and things who have been owed by the state, they have been selling the debt to specific financial institutions in order to get their debt settled and all that. So you never know what might happen with them. I would put the population on notice that, look, all of these changes and things that the government implemented, we warned them about it, and they didn't listen, and we are facing the consequences now, of giving the government an opportunity to impose impose a law that really the timing of it is bad and the entire process behind it is bad.
And lastly, right, is there a cap as far as we start at 2% and we cannot go no higher than I see something where 10%, something like that. Is there a cap as far as property tax is concerned? So for
No, and
example,
that's one of the things that we were concerned about, that the minister made an amendment in this last bill that we debated on Tuesday, that he can change the percentage without coming to the parliament. And we resisted it. Every member of the independent bench also resisted it and had a problem with it. And then he said, well, he'll agree to put a cap on it at 10%. I want to tell people, look out for after a general election. If they put God out of their thoughts and vote the PNM back into power again, property tax might end up being as high as 10%. Because this whole reduction from 3% to 2% is a election gimmick. It's the first of many election gimmicks that you're going to see. And once they get another mandate and they are back in power, do not be surprised at all if Imwood wake up one morning and changes that tax from anywhere between. Well, firstly, he doesn't even put the cap as yet. He promised to do it. Let's see if he does. But even if he does, he's saying he'll cap it at 10%. So don't be surprised if you wake up sometime in 2025 after a general election, as I say, if people put God out their thoughts and elect them again, that you find yourself paying 7%, 8%, 9%, anywhere in that vicinity. Because once you give them that power, I think they have shown, when people show you what they're about, you have to believe them. And they have shown that they will do anything that they have to do to get their hands on money from citizens.
so Mrs. Lashmidial, I know you have another name at your end. I know you just recently took some vows, I heard. But
Sorry?
no, no, that's okay. Now I just talk about it's still Janti Lachmidial.
Well, I'm hyphenating my name now. I got married, so
Okay,
Ramdial is my
right,
my
right,
married
right,
name.
right.
That's fine.
That's what I was
Yeah.
saying. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
but I
Right.
but I appreciate that you pick up the phone and talk to us because we think this type of information is very important information. And
Yes.
that property tax, I think the government need to just start all over again because
I agree.
it's just not
Mm-hmm.
making sense. So thank you very much and
Yeah.
have a happy Easter.
You too. Take care. Bye
All
bye.
right, bye bye. Yeah. So folks, there you have it. Just pick up the phone and call, and she answered the phone, and we get. I mean that's kind of shocking though, that they're gonna have a cap of 10%. I mean, oh God, I don't know what to say, but Matilda, welcome. France Mirage, welcome. Francis, hello Wall Street. I think following current affairs in TNT is just too much work. It is depressing. Why do we have a group of people supporting attacks that have no structure? I agree with you, France. That tax, that tax to me like was like a spaghetti theory. Throw stuff on the wall and see what goes stick. That is it. Throw stuff up on the wall and see what goes stick. If it didn't stick, all right, we come back and tell the people, well, look, we have reduced your tax by 33 and a third percent. We love you, so we take great care of you. Look at that. Eh? That means to say that they didn't do They didn't do a serious study before they implement that tax. They did not. They did not. Right? And they're going to continue to bungle it. And I've said over and over, tax, everybody in Trinidad and Tobago should not be paying 2% property tax across the board. It should not be like that. You know, they just always want to take the worst of the worst in America, but they don't want to take the best of the best. In America, many people pay different percentages for property tax in the same community. Everybody don't pay 2% across the board. Why don't they implement that? That is the best of the best in America. Why don't they take that? They don't want to take that. Mr. Florida, you could call and tell them, even my friend Ambrose, my PNM friend Ambrose in New York, he could call and tell them, me and Jean Julian down in Maryland, he could call. Yeah. Who else? Is Maryland, I think Maryland in New York too. They could call and tell you. Next door neighbors living next to each other paying different percentage in property tax because of the property. They bungle this valuation badly, badly, badly. I don't know how they're going to get out of it. If I was the RPNM, seriously, I will abolish this property tax, abolish it, and after the election, start over. Just start over. Start over. Because it's not going to get any better with this property tax. France was always under the impression Trinidad was oil rich, but with property tax, it changed my perception of Trinidad. Nah, they're oil rich, but we having problems. Yeah, and they have a carbon emission report I'm going to bring to you guys, right? But as we say that, listen to what the president of Guyana, how he dealt with a British guy trying to take him to task. Where did I put that one? I think I put it over here. Yes, I want you guys to listen to this. Well, we would love to have he demanded us. Okay. Commercial balloons. That not that one. Okay, hold on. You know, these things will be right there, not that one. When you want them, and then all of a sudden, PM on property tax. Maybe it's here. If it's not here, we're gonna have to do it after the break. Nope, it's not there. Anyway, folks, I was just trying to find you a video with the president of Guyana and how he dealt with this reporter that was trying to make Guyana look bad with respect to carbon emissions. And he did a spectacular. You know what? Let me see if I could get it on my phone. That might be easier. Let me see if I get it here. If I still have it. Let me see. Oh, okay. All right, here it is. Is that it? All right, I get it after the break. That one on the president. So, folks, yeah, I mean, property tax for us, and then you have yes, France. Thank you. It was BBC Hard Talk with Dr. Ali. Yes, I'm gonna get that video. So here we have Dr. Irfan Ali had to deal with this gentleman from the BBC because sometimes them just think that we are backyard country and we don't have our statistics or we don't have our facts. Man, he deal with him, boy. He deal with him. Yeah? He dealt with him very harshly. Okay, here it is right here. Here it is. I know it was right here. Here it is.
It is expected that there will be $150 billion worth of oil and gas extracted off your coast. It's an extraordinary figure, but think of it in practical terms. That means, according to many experts, more than 2 billion tons of carbon emissions will come from your seabed, from those reserves, and be released into the atmosphere. I don't know if you, as a head of state, went to the COP in Dubai.
Let me stop you right there. Let me stop you right there. Do you know that Guyana has a forest forever that is the size of England and Scotland combined? A forest that stores 19.5 gigatons of carbon? A forest that we have kept alive? A forest that we have kept alive.
Does that give you the right? Does that give you the right to release all of this carbon?
Does that give you the right to lecture us on climate change? I am going to lecture you on climate change because we have kept this forest alive that stores 19.5 gigatons of carbon that you enjoy, that the world enjoy, that you don't pay us for, that you don't value, that you don't see a value in, that the people of Guyana has kept alive. Guess what? We have the lowest deforestation rate in the world. And guess what? Even with our greatest exploration of the oil and gas resource we have now, we will still be net zero. Guyana will still be net zero. With all our exploration,
we'll
still be net zero.
Powerful words, Mr. President. But
I'm not completed as yet. I am not finished as yet. I am just not finished as yet. Because this is the hypocrisy that exists in the world. The world in the last 50 years has lost 65% of all its biodiversity. We have kept our biodiversity. Are you valuing it? Are you ready to pay for it? When is the developed world going to pay for it? Or are you in the pockets? Are you in the pockets of those who have damaged the environment? Are you in the pockets, are you and your system in the pockets of those who destroyed the environment through the Industrial Revolution and now lecturing us? Are you in their pockets? Are you paid by them? Are you paid to keep their message alive? There is no hypocrisy.
There you have it. Taking him on. Let me get the president of Ghana a round of applause. As a game a round of applause. Yeah. Yeah, taking on them journalists and them hypocrites and them. Yeah. Yeah, we had to give the president a round of applause. The president of Guyana, a round of applause. Yeah, for that fantabulous, splendiferous dealing with that man there in the BBC. So, folks, we're going to go for a quick station break. And when we come back, we're going to have with us the NTA political leader, Gary Griffith. Stick and stay. We'll be right back after this.
You're listening to WZYE 95.9 FM. You are listening to WZYE 95.9 FM, the most influential name in Caribbean radio in the tri-state area. Broadcasting from East Orange, New Jersey, the most influential name in Caribbean radio, WZYE 95.9 FM. You're listening to WZYE 95.9 FM. You are listening to WZYE 95.9 FM, the most influential name in Caribbean radio in the tri-state area. Broadcasting from East Orange, New Jersey, the most influential name in Caribbean radio, WZYE 95.9 FM.
This is oh Lord, Trinidad and Tobago. This is DJ Bravo. I'm hurting, you know. This is a sad place. country turned into a sad place. When I look around, it's only sad face. Our country turned into a sad place. All I see in front of me, nightmares turn into reality. Like somebody build a monster factory. Parliament up against parliament economy. But let the moderators in another body in a jail. Somebody girl child missing, another rape again. And next road stain with somebody's sunburn. Who take the S out of Port of Spain? This is a sad place. My country turned into a sad place. When I look around, it's only sad face. Our country turned into a sad place. Now with the love, with the vibes, with the hope. Now tell me something, how we really want we cope. When the children breathing in too much gun smoke. And the Coast Guard can never see a boat. You're someone like some goats when they come looking for votes. With the empty promises, reading like a horoscope. Justice for sale in a fat envelope. Politically, all the answers is a joke. This is a sad place. My country turned into a sad place. When I look around, it's only sad face. Our country turned into a sad place. All I see in front of me, nightmares turn into reality. Like somebody build a monster factory. Parliament up against parliament economy. But look the moderators in another body in a jail. Somebody girl child missing, another rape again. And next road stain with somebody's sunburn. Who take the S out of Port of Spain? This is a sad place. My country turned into a sad place. When I look around, it's only sad face. Our country turned into a sad place. It doesn't matter the religion, the color, the creed, or the race. It's our responsibility to take care of our place. Champion!
Of course, we're back with you. It's Sunday Talk, Let's Talk Politics with yours truly, Professor Wall Street. Uncle Tommy was not joining us today, but of course, folks, we keep it moving here on WZYE 95.9 FM. Let me bring in our guest, the young man himself, Mr. Gary Griffith. Mr. Gary Griffith, welcome. How are you?
Good afternoon, Anselm. Always my pleasure. Good afternoon to you and to your many listeners and viewers.
Oh, are you going today, Mr. Griffith?
Not too bad at all. All good on Easter weekend.
What do you and your family do on Easter?
Well, we actually, I'm a Catholic. We go to church, and then, because this is a different type of Easter for us. I mean, we are smack bang in the middle of preparation for a general election, so it wasn't as the usual Easter weekends where we'll probably just stay together, relax, and do very little. There's a lot that we've been doing over the last few days. So the period for this wind down has allowed us to do a lot to prepare us as we go into the new week after Lent, to prepare for the upcoming general election.
Now, Mr. Griffith, you have told everyone that you're strategic. You're very strategic in your move, in the things that you do. It's something that you say very often. What was the strategy in you coming out in front and telling the people that you're going up and run for St. Joseph?
Well, I don't think there's so much strategy. There's more common sense. Okay. The reason why political parties are formed is to take part in an election. I have seen so many political parties formed, and then just before the election, they do not take part, probably because they know they may not have that support, probably because they know that it can be embarrassing, but that doesn't matter. The right of all the reason you form a political party is, one, to get in government, and obviously two, to win and to represent the people who support you. So that being the case, if it is that we know that there's a general election, why should you as a political party have to wait until the bell is called to automatically now try to announce your candidate and then try to play catch up? especially when you have persons who are present members of parliament who already have their foot on the ground. They must not have a head start. So that being the case, you would have seen as soon as I made this announcement, Terence Dial Singh has all of a sudden, he has learned about Instagram and social media. And every single day he's here showing people historical facts of St. Joseph, something he has never done in the 12 years he has been a member of parliament. So he has now picked up himself, and that shows that what we did was the correct thing to do, not just for the NTA trying to be successful, but to get a member of parliament to get off his chair and to start going out there and showing to the public who put him in office that you're there to serve them.
So you think since you announced that you have put, well, I don't know if Terence Dial Singh will be the nomination.
No, we don't.
We don't, you know. But with that, Mr. Griffith, does that mean to say that are you still in a coalition with the UNC?
Well, there was a strategic alliance, I should say, during the local government election campaign 2023, and it was very successful. The concept of trying to use the 7-7 is as ridiculous as you can come. Several of those PNM seats, PNM won by 310 to 220 and all of that, and other seats that the UNC may have won would have been like 2,000 to 800. So that 7-7, you had to look, when you look at the 190,000 to 130,000, that's a 60,000 difference, which means that for every 5 people who voted, 3 voted for the UNC-NT Alliance and 2 voted for the PNM. That's bad licks. So it showed that it was successful. What happens after going into a general election is a different ballgame. Obviously, dialogue would take place. I would always like to believe that if something is working, you don't need to fix it. If it is persons have a change in opinion and they would like to do their own thing, that is not my business. That we are a responsible political party. The reason why we have that word alliance at the end is to put an alliance of minds of persons with similar views, that ideologies, that we can come together, whether it be persons within the NT, but also political parties external to the NT. So if it is that we see that there are other political parties that are willing to work with us, understand the relevance of us, respect us, and making sure that there's mutual respect, that window will continue to be open. But as at this time, our focus is on the NT, not what other parties intend to do.
Right. So this was not focus, whatever anybody else was going to be doing in St. Joseph. This was a basically NTA focus of as we go forward to the general election.
Yeah, correct. So, for example, you know, the UNC, they stated since November, they are opening the doors there for candidates of all 41 seats. That certainly doesn't sound like a party that wants to be in an alliance, but it is their right. If the reason you're a political party or the main opposition party, it is your right to look for candidates in all 41. Similar to the NT, it is our right. If coming down to the end, when that nomination day is called, and the NTA may have 41 and UNC may have 41, there could be a decision that both parties, if we feel that there's no type of an alliance and understanding or mutual respect, both parties can go the way of 41 seats each, or a unification where there will be give and take, where certain seats we think that we have a better UNC candidate, the NTA candidate can now support that UNC candidate to win, and vice versa. When that is done, as I've always said, it is 100% confirmed that the PNM will always lose. That is what happened in 1981, 1991, and 2010, where it is that one party steps back, provides the support of that base supporters for the other party's candidate, and vice versa. St. Joseph was a perfect example. When St. Joseph is split down the middle, you had in 2007, the UNC getting 4,500 odd votes, and the same thing with the COP, and the PNM got 7,000. And then when they did the maths in 2010, join it together with the UNC putting up their candidate, that COP support of the 4,000 join with that, and then it becomes a greater synergy of the numbers game. So it's not just adding the both. It's the saying the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So by that happening, it caused previous Justice Volney to totally annihilate Major Kennedy Swartzy in 2010.
So what I'm hearing you saying, Mr. Griffith, is that the door is still open for an alliance in the general election between the NTA and the UNC.
Yeah, definitely, and that is for all the other political parties, as I said. The perception that, okay, there are 3 major political parties, 2 obviously, the PNM and the UNC, and the NTA is seen now as that party that is trying to represent that bridge constituency of the previous ONR/NAR/COP voters. So you notice every few years we just keep changing the name. So probably in 10 years there may be something else instead of the NT. It doesn't take away the fact that that representation has always been the catalyst to decide the outcome of the election. And so obviously the door will be open if there continues to be dialogue. And I think that is what the country wants. The country wants to see some type of unification and alliance of different minds, and not just probably one political party running a government.
But Mr. Griffith, don't you think that it will be better if it's the NTA against the PNM as opposed to be the NTA UNC against the PNM?
No, many people have told me that, especially in the corridor. You have this bitterness that you will have people for the UNC, just as you'll have people with bitterness for the PNM. But I have to be honest and do the maths. I mean, it started, as I said, it started in 1981 with that third party getting 91,000 votes. No seat that was ONR. 1991, it moved to the NAR, of which Kamala Prasad-Bissessar was a candidate against the UNC. And they got 127,000 votes against against the PNM, and they got no seats. And then in 2007, the COP then moved up to 147,000. So the numbers keep growing. Do we have that capacity to win an election on our own? What we have seen is that bridge constituency, on most occasions, it will comprise just about 2/3 odd of the persons who will vote for the UNC if there's no third party. But that 1/3 that goes back to the PNM is what will cause the flip over for the PNM to defeat the UNC. The UNC have never been able to defeat the PNM in a 3-horse race. The UNC has never been able to defeat the PNM on its own at any time other than one occasion, and that only lasted a few months. So yes, it is that many people will say that, and that is based on emotion. I don't make decisions based on emotion. I'm like Spock in Star Trek. You have to be very clinical, you have to be very analytical, and you can't just do it based on we don't like this one or we hate this one. You can't. No political party is perfect. No political leader is perfect. I am certainly not perfect. And what I'm willing to do is to embrace, to open, to unify. So often in politics, we have seen, especially like you mean with the PNM, the political leader of the PNM, every single thing he says, notice his words, I have directed, I have instructed, I have summoned, I have ordered. Those are his words. And he actually believes that is what leadership is about. And then every comment is to attack Gary, to attack Kamala. The country doesn't want that. The country wants to see a united country. And that is why it was so good when this country just 20 years ago, with people like Basdio Pandey and Patrick Manning, whoever was in government, the country did not have this type of hatred and bitterness and animosity, that line being drawn. My intention is to unite Trinidad and Tobago. And as much as people will be upset and saying we must not talk to any other political party because we believe that we are so much better than them, I think that's what caused the disenchantment and the defeats in 2007, because there was that perception that the COP felt that they were better than anyone else. It doesn't. You can't disrespect that PNM base. That is a very powerful party that have done so much for Trinidad and Tobago. I am not going to attack and condemn and demonize the PNM. Similar to the UNC, there's a very powerful base. These two parties have a base of 150,000 plus. Regardless of what the political leader say or do, they are going to support it. And this is not about calling them sheep. This is what happens in the Republicans and Democrats in the United States. It happens. And when you have that base so solid, they start off with 150,000 head start over that third constituency. Having said that, the decision that the third constituency, that bridge constituency, make is always the deciding factor towards the election results.
But Gary, just to follow up, this is the last one from Mr. Griffith. Do you honestly believe that if you go it alone, that you can have an impact in the upcoming general election if you just go it alone without that coalition between the UNC and the other smaller parties against the PNM? When you say impact as in successful impact, or well, winning seats to have an impact.
Well, and again, that's why we honestly don't know. When you look at 2007, the Congress of the People got 147,000 votes. The UNC got just about 40,000 more. So that's a difference of 20,000 persons had they decided to vote for the COP instead of the UNC. The COP would have probably acquired more votes or seats, sorry. The UNC instead got 15 seats, the COP got none. But what happened since 2007, 17 years later, persons between the ages of 18 and 35 never had a third choice. Those young people are those who mommy and daddy can't tell them this is a PNM or UNC house, you have to vote for us. Because of the era of technology, young persons are no longer caught up in this is a PNM or UNC house. That is why that bridge constituency, the numbers continue to build drastically. And because of that, unless, which is very sad, it is very sad that we have all of our daily newspapers and media houses in the last, about the last 8 years, there's never been a poll on anything. The only poll they've ever done is on Gary Griffith, when in that poll with myself as Commissioner of Police, there was 89% public trust and confidence in me, or had no concern about me, which I think was the highest of any citizen in Trinidad and Tobago. But that was as a Commissioner of Police. Is that 89% going to resonate into politics? Definitely not, because there are many people, PNM and UNC till they die, that said, in that 89%, that said, yeah, I believe in Gary Griffith. But for him to be in a political party, nah, mad what, as a PNM or UNC till I die, no way. So unless there's a poll, a scientific poll that was done, the only one that was scientific in the local government had PNM with 39%, UNC 35%, the NTA 10%, 9 or 10%, other parties 1%. And that is where when we realized the 9 plus the 35 will overwhelm the 39 of the PNM. And it's exactly what happened in the local government. But that was in November last year. Things changed. So it remains to be seen whether we have that capability. I don't work based on gut feeling. I try to be very analytical, clinical, and that answer could only be given if there's a scientific poll done.
So you mentioned something there, and it kind of jogged my memory. Are you open to a political debate of the political leaders in Trinidad and Tobago? For example, in this country, we have about three presidential debates. All right. And even in the Democrats, they have debates too as well. And the Republicans also have debates. I don't remember the last time that there was any debate in Trinidad and Tobago with any of the political leaders running to be prime minister. Are you open to something like that?
100%. I said it recently with Fitzgerald Hines when so he was on an interview in a state media house, and they asked him, would you be willing to have a debate with Gary Griffith? He said yes. And obviously, the coward that he is, after 2 months, he has refused to take me up on it. He's a coward. I could debate with him on anything, especially if it comes to national security, where he's the minister. I was a previous minister. Let's go. Let's deal with policies, plans, programs, political will, technology, units, systems, methods to improve performance, measure performance, making the police service accountable. He doesn't have a clue. And my results as a minister to his, I would have annihilated him. So this is the problem why it will not take place. Keith Rowley will not dare have a debate with me because he's the only one who has anything to lose. He already has his 150,000 base that really and truly believe that he is the best person to be prime minister. So if he debates with me, all that is going to happen is that I'm going to expose his shortcomings. I will hit certain trigger points and will cause him to get upset. His head will start going up and down like this when he gets upset, and he start making comments of ying, and I don't know what that means. Only Keith Rowley could translate the things that he says when he gets angry, upset. He, as Patrick Manning said, he gets totally out of control. Being trained at a military academy, I will know how to press his trigger points, and he will flop. So he is never going to have a debate with me because he doesn't see the value of it, which again is unfortunate. I support you 100% that there should be some debate so that the country can actually see, let us see who is going to be the better individuals to serve us. But it wouldn't happen, not in Trinidad and Tobago. We are not mature enough because we do not see the value. Or the persons who hold high office will see that this is only going to affect me, so there's no value for me to recognize him and give him enough oxygen to measure our standard. It is going to diminish my support, so I'm not going to do it. So in other words, they are cowards and they will not do it. And the sad thing is that if you switch and you're in opposition, you'll want to have a debate because you want to go after the person who is in government. If that one who holds the crown, what can I say? It is lonely at the top, but the view is excellent, and that's why everybody wants to have that view. But to be able to come out and debate to show your worth ain't gonna happen.
Well, why don't the people of Trinidad and Tobago call for that? Because you know what? The reason why I ask this, Trinidad and Tobago compare themselves to many things happening in America, right? When we want to compare it for whatever it is good, we never compare ourselves to the bad things. We compare ourselves to the best of the best, right? A debate is the best of the best, right? Why don't the people of Trinidad and Tobago call for those political leaders to have debates? It's required in a general election.
Well, I think they do. I think they want that because, as I said, the many PNM supporters would actually believe that Keith Rowley is a good leader, and so they will want that, and not until the debate starts that they will realize, my God, this man doesn't have a clue. So the vast majority of the country will always want it. When it is that message was passed and Fitzgerald had said, yes, he's willing to have a debate with me, the whole country said, yeah, let's do it. So the public will want it. But what happens is that when you get in office, you ignore the needs of the public, you ignore the concerns, the views, the wishes of the public, because you actually think that they are sheep. So that even though they want to have this debate, I'm not going to do it because it's going to affect me politically. And they do not want to actually expose their shortcomings. So the public, by and large, will want it. They would be excited to see a debate like that. But as I said, it wouldn't happen because even though the public may demand it and want it, the persons, especially in authority, I don't think there's ever been a prime minister, I can't recall that there hasn't been a prime minister in this country that has ever agreed to have a public debate with the leader of the opposition or leaders of other political parties. What they do is what you have right now with conversations with the prime minister, which is really misinformation with the prime minister. He has choreographed persons come forward. It was hilarious. I actually exposed it to show that the man Keith Rowley is not comfortable with himself. He's not sure of himself. He has a lot of shortcomings. So what they did was get people to prepare questions, and this man had spoke for about 3 minutes, and then Keith Rowley says, "Oh yeah, and they did this. Oh, let me answer that," and press. He had the answers of the exact question, and it took him 0.5 seconds to press. It was there on his phone waiting to be answered. So that whole thing with conversations with the prime minister is not the public coming up to you and doing a critical analysis of your performance. You're getting people who are all with a PNM party card or supportive of you. They're telling you what question to ask, and then you know the answer that you would give to give the impression. Look at me. It reminds me of he sits down like if for persons maybe a little older, Sesame Street. There's this fellow called Alistair McCookie, and he just sitting down near by the fireplace with his legs folded and trying to pretend that you're so calm and controlled. You're not choreographed to fully public into believing that you know your job. That is what they will do. They will never take a one-on-one with a critical analysis of even reporters or other persons in political party. Like, for example, I am the only political leader that would be willing to have an interview with anyone, and there are serious PNM stations that I would be willing to, because I know my business, I know my job. You can't catch me. When you ask me a question, I know where you're coming 3 steps ahead. So I know if I give that answer, this is what you're going to come back at me after. So political leaders will not be interviewed in radio stations in Trinidad and Tobago that are totally biased towards or against them.
Yeah, I absolutely hear you. But Mr. Griffith, I would like you guys, and I'm saying the NTA, the PNM, and the UNC, when they're having these conferences or these talks, that they find a way to get the diaspora involved so that people from the diaspora could ask them questions. Because I kind of feel that the diaspora is left out, and we see things from a little different perspective than how people in Trinidad and Tobago see it. A
little. You will see it in a big different perspective because you're outside of it. Usually when you're inside, you don't see the problems because you're so blinded by being a supporter of the red, the yellow, or the blue, or whatever. You actually don't see it. Sometimes when you stay from the outside and you're looking at it, you get a more neutral, holistic perspective. And that is why it is important, very much so, for the diaspora to actually have some degree of contribution. But you all don't. There's nothing that the media will ask what it is that the average citizen in Miami, in New York, in Boston, in London, in Toronto would think. No. And it even goes to the point of your contribution to even selecting who must govern a country. We have shown total disrespect for the diaspora of all persons who have a Trinidad and Tobago passport, because we have told you for the last 5 decades, if you are not a true Trini, and because for you to come and vote here, you have to leave, I think it's 6 months in advance, stay here for you to be registered by the EBC. That is total disrespect. And when you look at the numbers, I think it's about 500,000, primarily in Miami, New York, in Toronto, London. Those are the main places. And I think it's such blatant disrespect. But I tell you, political parties on both sides may have always had that concern that you bring in, we allow the diaspora to have equal voting rights, for example, which is what I intend to do when we get in government. We give you all equal voting rights. The yellow may very well say that's dangerous for us because the number of Afro-Trinidadians that are in New York, it will be overwhelming. And then the PNM might say the same thing about the number of Indo-Trinidadians who have TT passports in London and in probably Miami or Toronto. So they play the numbers game, and because they are not sure if it is going to politically benefit them, they decide to cut you off totally. And I think that is unfair. I don't care. By me, my intention is to do the similar thing to the United States citizens. You are a US citizen anywhere in the world. You don't have to get back to the United States to vote. And it is so simple to do. All it takes is two things. One, that you have a Trinidad and Tobago passport, but gives you some an address in Trinidad and Tobago that we can state that this is where you're eligible to vote, put it into your constituency. And two, that we put similar systems in the US where we have those temporary stations for special voting in Miami, in New York, in Washington, in Toronto, in Venezuela, in Caracas, in Guyana, China, Geneva, and that's how easy it is done. And now you'll be able to get 500,000 extra persons to make sure that they are seen, recognized, and given the respect, because nothing makes you less a Trinidad and Tobago citizen than one who lives in Trinidad and Tobago. But that's my view.
No, I hear you, and I don't really hear. I don't hear the PNM or the UNC actually talking about the diaspora, and I know at one point in time, some party was saying, nah, we don't want them out in the diaspora voting because they might vote for this party. They might make this party win. So by any means necessary, we don't want no part of them. If they want to vote, or they get on a plane
and come back. Yeah. So it goes right back to what's in it for me, not treating a Trinidad and Tobago citizen as a Trinidad and Tobago citizen. I think it is total disrespect to the diaspora. And if it is that the NTA we do that, and it may cause more persons to vote for, say, the PNM to put them back in office, so be it. It means we have our job to do to influence the diaspora that we are the better party. But it doesn't matter. We can't be cutting out probably about 1/3 of the eligible voters with a Trinidad and Tobago passport just because you don't live here. That's red banana republic type of politics we're speaking about. And no prime minister has ever seen it fit to do that. But when you're a prime minister, you will want to go to all of these different places after to have the flair and the thing. I'm the prime minister, and I'll meet with you all, and I'll cut a ribbon here, and I'll go down to Brooklyn, and I'll open this new place. But when it comes to trying to say should you have a part to reappoint me? No way, because I'm not sure if it is going to shift to cause me to be defeated.
Now, here's a question from the chat, Mr. Griffith. It says, Mr. Ansem, question to Gary. The country in an economic crisis. Do you think the people will choose the third party with no track record to give them a chance to bring back the country, or just vote for the UNC?
Well, again, the factors with no track record. So the first thing I will ask you all is, what have you got to lose? It can't get any worse. So by stating, it's like stating you have a football team that is losing constantly. And then we say, look, instead of us, we keep losing our World Cup qualifiers because we keep looking for experience. Let's build a national 23 team and develop them. So at least it's going to be young, dynamic, away from all of the corruption, the mismanagement, the backstabbing. And it may take a while to build, but you're still losing anyway. So what have you got to lose? Nothing. That is one. Two, the perception that because a political party does not have the experience. Look at the track record of the experience of the past. Is that the experience you want to come back for another 5 years? When it is, you look at myself as I was a minister of national security, and my budget allocation was more than any other minister. When I was a commissioner of police, my budget allocation was more than most ministers in the PNM government. So I am fully cognizant in understanding how to balance a budget, how to utilize resources in an effective and efficient manner, how to minimize expenses while it's not affecting productivity. And that's the reason why the police service, for example, we were able, even though they cut our budget by $400 million during the period of COVID when we needed it the most, I was still able to get funds to purchase walkthrough mobile scanners, body cameras, pepper spray, new units, new technology, new equipment, things to put an end to kidnapping, things to put an end to home invasions. So and that is the same way that what we are trying to show is that if it is that I was able, through my team, transform the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, utilizing our own limited budget allocation, then it is that we can do the same thing to transform every single arm of the public service. It is not difficult. The transformation of me in the police service was because of my expertise in national security. It had to do with management. It had to do with leadership. It had to do with accountability. It had to do with measuring performance. You do that, you can transform the health, education, finance, youth development, sport, all of these different ministries. You put systems to make sure that there's proper accountability. We cut the waste, we cut the fat, and then you don't have to now turn into trying to tax your way out to balance a budget.
You know, Mr. Griffith, you mentioned sport. I was looking for the Prime Minister to congratulate the hockey team for making the World Indoor Championship. Did he? By Sam, I didn't see anything. Do you know if he did?
No, and that is one of the things that I know for the last 50 years, again, sport has never been a frontline ministry. It is going to be a frontline ministry in the next government. I have managed the national hockey team for 10 years. We got the first time we ever got CSC gold medals. I managed the national women's hockey team that qualified for the World Cup finals, defeating the United States, in fact, in Washington. I've been on the technical staff of the national men's football World Cup team. I've been on the technical staff with the West Indies World Cup cricket team in the T20 in England. So I'm heavily involved in sports, and it's not because I like sport, but I understand that sport can totally transform a country. This country was never so united as it was after we qualified in that 2006 for the 2006 World Cup. But we don't do anything. We even with the World Cup football team, which is usually the most important sporting team in a country, the soccer team. So and with that, there was absolutely nothing that was done. Not a finger was lifted to assist the national team in equipment, in practice games, in traveling, in the access to a field. And it happened with the hockey team as well. This hockey team, they are trying to train in an area where, in one place where this rain is falling on the surface, they rented it out to primary schools. I acquired the only artificial surface in the Southern Caribbean for hockey, and with that artificial surface for 3 years, it has not been used. It's at the police barracks because Gary Griffith built it, and this has stopped hockey for 3 years. We do not have a hockey competition or tournament from the Trinidad and Tobago Hockey Board. That is madness. We put no support and emphasis in understanding the importance of sport. Sport doesn't just turn somebody into winning a gold medal. It transforms minds, young minds, into certain character traits that is important, involving development, uniformity, punctuality, leadership, not giving up, teamwork, strategy. All of those things in sport, when you're on a sporting team, you can now use that into your own personal life to develop you. That's why it is less that you will see someone who is involved in sport feeling than someone who is not involved in sport. When you're in sport, your whole body, the system changes. And that is why I intend to make sure that almost every single young person must be taking part in some degree of sport. So sport will now become a core curricular activity, similar to some countries in Europe, rather than be seen as an extracurricular activity.
You know, I am a full person with sports too, and I was taken aback when I saw a young lady from Burnley Athletics getting up and talking to the Prime Minister and telling the Prime Minister, Eddie Hart don't have a locker room for them to change. Eddie Hart Center, Eddie Hart Grounds. Don't have a locker room for them to change. And the Prime Minister said, well, my Minister of Sports is here. I'm going to see what she can do. I mean, I didn't get that, man. This is 2024.
Well, Ansel, I'll tell you why. I mean, and it's not to knock the Minister of Sport, but she admitted she never kicked a line. She knows nothing about sport. So when I was Commissioner of Police, I will be trying to get the head of the normalization committee, the national coach, the Minister of Sport to get together, understand the importance of us qualifying for the World Cup. And she just didn't get it. She couldn't understand it. And it is not to say we do not have the funds. When you had and let me tell it into US, a stadium in Brian Lara that is supposed to be constructed at a cost of less than 7 million US. 7 million US for a stadium. That is the cost for similar stadium around the Caribbean. They instead paid nearly 200 million US for the same construction. You're talking about over nearly 180 to 190 million dollars US in corruption, in mismanagement. You imagine if that was used towards the development of sport in Trinidad and Tobago. Our national teams, constantly it happens. The day before they have to leave, you're fighting to see if you could get a cabinet note. Fighting. That will obviously affect the mindset of the players prior to leaving because they don't even know if they are going to take part. And then teams will go now and you have poor accommodation, poor organization. You don't have practice games prior to the actual tournament. It is a disaster because and again, I think going back in the last 20 years, the only 3 ministers in Trinidad and Tobago who actually have been involved in national sport would have been Anil Roberts, myself, and I think Gary Hunt. But the rest of them have never kicked a line. They're not in, and it's not to knock them, and not everybody could be involved in sport. But many cabinets, they do not understand the value of sport. They do not put the emphasis to understand how that can transform not just a mind, but a country. So the Shamfa Kojo, unfortunately, she doesn't know. She doesn't understand. She sees sports as a ministry and a business. Sport is so much more. And that's why, as I said, I intend to make sure that sport becomes a core curricular activity and become one of the primary ministries in the government.
You know, I have said, right, in our communities here in New Jersey, almost every town have a recreation department. And the recreation departments have different sporting activities all throughout the year. And there's also academic activities too. I have said, you know, it would be nice if the 41 constituencies around Trinidad and Tobago have a dedicated recreation department, which puts on sporting events 365 days out of the year. You know, because what it does, it allows these kids to come in, when they finish practice, they're tired, they go home, they do their homework, and they go to sleep. Right? And on weekends, you have events happening. Right? Let me see. Hold a minute. Let me see. Just a minute. Hello, caller. Welcome. Hello, caller. Hello? Okay. Yeah. These recreation departments have had significant impact on these communities. And not only that, but in school, everyone had to play some type of sport. Everyone.
Yeah. So,
go ahead.
Yeah, and you know, it's not coincidental. I'm actually looking at myself, and the 2 major parts of my life have been involved in the 2 pictures in the back, and it's so coincidental. One is sport, and one is military service. And that is where, again, I have seen so much that I said that they have not done what is required. When I was commissioner of police, I understood the importance of sport to transform minds, to take them away from a life of crime. Because there's something in criminological theory known as there's primary, secondary, and tertiary crime prevention. The primary is hard targeting, that's policing, roadblocks, operations, arresting. Then there's tertiary, which is the criminal justice system. Secondary, it's trying to utilize the energies of young persons away from a life of crime, better education, better health facilities, and sport. And then as commissioner of police, we did something known as the Commissioner's Cup. This involved thousands of young persons being able, this was just a football game for a tournament to win, you know. What that did is that you will have 2 different areas in Laventille or wherever, and this football team will now play with this football team. And you're speaking about gang members on the both sides coming and watching the 2 teams play, and then realizing these are young players in our area, and these are young players in another area. They are all humans, they are all citizens, and they'll be watching their fellow gang members, and it calmed the country down. It allowed not just a unification of a team, but the unification of one town to another, one village with another, one constituency with another. That is how sport could unite a country. That Commissioner's Cup played such a critical part in calming down certain volatile, known as hotspot areas, by unifying the village, the town, the area, to say, hey, this is our team, we're supporting them. And it built a degree of harmony, unification, and even good camaraderie between different areas that would have been seen initially as a war zone between one and the other. As soon as I left, it was shut down because the two commissioners after me never kicked a line. They didn't understand the value of sport. And that is the example of when you speak about what is the NTA going to bring to the table, a total transformation in governance.
You know, and that is so important. I mean, I went to the 2006 World Cup because I told myself, the first time Trinidad and Tobago make it to the World Cup, I will make sure I'm be there. So I was there for all of them games. And that was a splendiferous occasion, man. And it, as you said, there was a sort of unification across the country when we made it to the World Cup.
Yeah, and let me tell you something about it. We qualified for the World Cup. It wasn't by a proper national development. It was based on the fact that we had about 10 players who are actually playing in the top leagues in the world. The Dwight York, Stern John, Brent Sancho, Shaka Hislop, Russell Latapi, they were all there playing at the highest level. Now, because FIFA has changed that your country had to be in the top 100 or in FIFA. Now our players can't even get to sign to play in the English Premier League. But the fact of the matter is that, so what we have to do is similar to what Costa Rica, Panama, and even Venezuela have done. Continue to put there's no support whatsoever for our national team, the youth teams, the under 15, the under 17, the under 20. We just had an under 20 qualifying tournament. And the team was hurriedly assembled a few months before the tournament. And the reason they're doing it is not bad management by the Normalization Committee or the TTFA. It's because of lack of any type of support by the government. So, I mean, even my son, he was on the national under 17 team. And it was just about 2 weeks before the qualifier started in Orlando that they said, okay, we're gonna send you all off. Go and see what you could do. And they qualified. I think they got through to the playoff and they lost in the quarterfinal or something. That shows the disrespect that our government has. These teams are supposed to be given as much. There's a World Cup, there's a qualifying tournament in a year. You assemble them in a year, but you said you assemble them in 2 months, and then you blame the poor coach when it is you get bad results. That is the type of incompetence that I have seen constantly with our national teams. And what they do is they just give them enough funding to attend the tournament that they will take part in and lose. No, you got to put a proper structure to make sure that they train. It happens with the US under 15, under 17, under 20 team. It's not because the US players are much better than Trinidad and Tobago players, but the mental, physical preparation they get prior to these qualifiers is what will always cause the USA to defeat Trinidad and Tobago. And that is the point that I'm trying to drive home. It's not going to happen with this present administration. Not one of them understand or have been involved in any type of major sport. So they don't know. It is a government that is clueless in understanding the importance of sport towards unifying, building a country, and building that degree of harmony, the pride that you get when your national team wins. And it happens constantly. I remember even Kishore and Walcott. I went to 2012 Olympics. My family and I were about 5 rows behind Kishore when he threw the javelin. This man was given a javelin and was told, and this wasn't the government to say, but individuals say, look, we're letting in this javelin, it's $40,000 for it. Make sure you bring it back after you lose. That is the kind of mental thing. When he wins, there's a big motorcade. And then after he wins, he's coming back on the same flight with myself, and he's down in economy class, down in the back where the toilet door slams you in your face. And I think the head of TTOC had to switch seats for him to stay in business class. That is the type of disrespect you see. But then when they arrive, you do everything. Yes. And it even happens even with the Miss Universe, with people who represent us, even in Miss Universe and Miss World. The individual who represented us in Miss World, you ask the government, show us what did you do to help prepare this young lady towards what she had. What traveling did you arrange for her? What type of training for her to be involved in protocol, public speaking, impromptu speaking? What funding did you put to her sister? But as soon as she comes back and got in the top 4, all sorts of motorcade and fanfare and ministers reaching her at the airport. It happens all the time. That type of disrespect must stop. These sportsmen don't want to have a plane named after them and all of that. What they want is the support from Trinidad and Tobago prior to them representing Trinidad and Tobago.
You know, I'm going to say this. In the past 9 years, sports have depreciated to its worst ever level in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. I can say that. The worst in the history. And here's why I say that to you. You talked about the turf field. When is Daryl Smith, right, was the Minister of Sports? Is Daryl Smith?
Yes, he was the Minister of Sport and then Camphor Kojo, yes.
Right. When he was the Minister of Sports, before you came up with the idea of turf, I came to Trinidad one year. I met him in his office, and I brought a sample of turf. I already had talked to the company. I brought a sample, you know. I had already talked to the company. I had know they had put turf down right here in where we live, and I sample and everything. And I say, Mr. Smith, here is something that this government could be innovative, creative with respect to sports. This is something they can plan this 24/7. Rainfall, it go drain out. The people come and do it. And you know what happened? When I left, you must find some special garbage that is put turf in and put it in that disposable file. You understand? And then when I hear you coming and saying that, I say, wow, that's a brilliant idea. Because in many towns here, high school have turfs. High schools.
And, you know, and there's a reason for that, because when I look at the concept of putting an AstroTurf in St. James Barracks, that was taxpayers' money. It cost the taxpayers about $2 million in comparison to the similar turf being built in Tacarigua for the last 5 years. That's costing about $12 million because I cut the middleman. And that turf was to be used for all, not just for the national hockey team, not just for other sporting teams, but to assist the area in St. James, Port of Spain, and surrounding areas to play windball cricket at night, to have all of the children be on a facility that is virtual, there's a less likely chance that they could be injured because of the cushion of that turf. So you can have that turf being used from 8 a.m. until midnight, every single day with a 10-year lifespan. You're talking about young children playing sports. And you know, for 3 years, they've refused to give it. That is a tax. That's taxpayers' turf. The police service, they have been told apparently, do not give it to anybody else because Gary Griffith built it. And that's for 3 years. Anybody who drives in St. James, they will see that turf empty. And it is total disrespect. And let me even add, this is what affected the national football team from not even qualifying for the 2022 World Cup. Well, at least getting through to the next round. Because what happened is that the national team was supposed to play Puerto Rico. And playing Puerto Rico, they had to play Puerto Rico on AstroTurf. And any footballer will tell you, playing on grass to then playing on an AstroTurf is chalk and cheese. You need to prepare and to have some degree of training on an AstroTurf before you get out there. Puerto Rico could draw with us, but that is what happened because I didn't get the AstroTurf completed until a few weeks after the Puerto Rico game. So when the team turned up there in Puerto Rico, they were at a loss. And the same thing happened with Trinidad and Tobago when they played Curacao recently under Angus Eve. Curacao could give us 5. It was an AstroTurf, and the AstroTurf was there. But the national team, instead of having the ability to use that AstroTurf to prepare them, we lost to Curacao. So those are the points I'm telling you, the importance of an artificial surface. You put that around different parts of Trinidad and Tobago. You get in all of the primary schools, the young persons, hockey, windball cricket, 24 hours a day you could use an AstroTurf. It is not going to turn into dust during the first 6 months of Trinidad and Tobago season, or turn into mud in the last 6 months in the season of Trinidad and Tobago, because the first 6 months is hot sun and all the grass will die. The last 6 months is total rains, it's going to turn into mud. That's what our fields turn, and that is how it is in this neck of the woods. The AstroTurf, and you see it everywhere you turn in the United States and London, is an artificial surface.
Yep. And you know, and on these artificial turf, they just play baseball, they just play lacrosse, they just play football, they just play soccer, they just play hockey. All these different sports are being played on this AstroTurf. And in Trinidad and Tobago, we have one or two?
One. The one that was constructed by the police. One.
And that one is not being utilized?
It's not being utilized. The only persons that use it will be the national hockey team, and they charge them something like $500 an hour. So they can't use it as much as they could. It's madness. It's ridiculous. So hockey, that has proven to be, I think, the most successful sport, I think, in Trinidad and Tobago in the last 10 years. Our national hockey team just qualified for the World Cup finals, the Indo World Cup finals, defeating the USA 5-4.
Yeah.
USA 5-4, and they had to train in a Woodbrook youth facility with rain falling and having to share it with primary schools. Our other hockey fives team were in the World Cup finals, and they reached the quarterfinals of the World Cup finals, losing by 1 or 2 goals to Malaysia. So they got in the top 8 countries in the world. That is the type of quality that we have with our hockey teams. and you have an artificial surface there. And for 3 years, there's been no national league in Trinidad and Tobago. So obviously hockey will die. The younger players there's been no opportunity for them, to develop themselves, to take part in competition, and the government is to blame.
No, we could talk sports only because I am a sports person too, and I believe sports have a significant impact. And in the statistics are there to show that sports help with crime as well.
Yeah, definitely. As I said, you will see on most occasions persons who are involved in sport. They usually have camaraderie. They have persons to speak to. They will utilize their energies away from a life of crime, and that is why on most occasions persons who are involved in sport, there's a less likelihood. I'm not saying it's not happening, but there's a less likelihood than somebody who will just spend the whole day lying on the block, not being involved in any teamwork, anything for him to stay fit, anything for him to be involved in an activity, to develop himself, to motivate himself. The possibility of you becoming a pro league footballer, for example, it may not be much in Trinidad and Tobago, but it takes the young persons off of the street. So that is where it is. It is so important. And I just want to make mention, sorry to segue, but there's a comment that's being made on the line there by a guy said Caribbean Soul. At no time have I put out this feeling that both UNC and PNM were corrupted. That is a lie. Throughout this interview, I've never said that. You're putting words in my mouth. What I said is that both parties have done tremendous job in developing the country, and they have made also mistakes, as many of us would do. So for you to put that line to say that I put out the feeling that the UNC and PNM were corrupted, so you're a liar.
So Gary, I want to shift the property tax.
Oh, sorry, before we go there, the question, how are you going to generate returns from sports strategy? I'll give you a simple example. Guyana got over 100 million US income generated from CPL. When I was Minister of National Security, I gave us a three-year contract to have the CPL in Trinidad and Tobago. When you have 20,000 people in the Queen's Park Oval and they leave the Queen's Park Oval after the game, they go to Arapita Avenue, St. James, the bars, the nightclubs, the taxis, the hotels, the restaurants. It generates income into the economy. That is how you deal with generating returns from sports. Also, for example, when you have a proper stadium with proper systems, you can now bring in teams from the United Kingdom in the preseason from the English Premier League come into Trinidad and Tobago. You'll now start to build the economy. When you have something like that, AstroTurf, you can have advertisements around that AstroTurf. With that advertisement, you can now get funding for more lights. With the concept of sport tourism, you can now boost into the economy of getting sport tourism as a factor when it becomes CPL, when it becomes international football teams of the highest level, getting persons to come here. You getting sponsors, you're getting massive television rights with hundreds of millions of dollars. Nothing like that has been done to generate income by this government as it pertains to sport tourism, because the only thing they know is to tax their way to balance the budget.
My bad. That was me. Look at the screen again. There's a next question there for you.
Yeah, it's the same individual who lied and said that I said both UNC and PNM were corrupt. So he's coming in with an agenda just for bacchanal. But so there was a lot of interference coming from the government side. Why do you take action at time? Well, Mr. Man, there's something called evidence. You can't take action unless there's evidence. However, if the government is doing something that is unethical, being unethical doesn't mean that you can arrest government officials. So, for example, if the government will say, look, we are giving you $40 million, put it in the police account, hire persons, make them SRPs, and these are the matters they must investigate. Only in a communist country will that be done. Any other country in the world, there will be a call for a new election. So those are things that are unethical, but it's not criminal. So the actions being made by the government, for example, as well, during the COVID pandemic, there was a concern that I was not arresting persons within their home. The Prime Minister and I fell out. Because of my training, there's something called an illegal command. Because you're a Prime Minister, I'm not going to blindly adhere to what you say that is wrong. Because the Prime Minister did not read and do research to understand public health regulations meant that it doesn't give the police the authority to arrest persons in their home. So if three young ladies are in Bayside by their pool and they are there in their area, with their own community, in their own gated area, there's nothing that could be done. Because you had weak police commissioners in like 2011 that arrested hundreds of young men under the state of emergency incorrectly, it meant that it cost the state tens upon tens of millions of dollars. I had no intention to do that. And that is the type of leadership the country needs. People who will stand firm and not allow wrongdoing.
So, Gary, Russell Chan says the government took over the resident field years ago in Diego Martin, built a stadium and put 10-foot military-type fencing and lock out the resident. That is criminal to the residents. Madness.
So there are tens of millions of dollars for that Diego Martin Stadium. Before that, there were 2 football fields that the community could utilize every single day. Immediately now, you want to enhance Diego Martin to the point that the average young person now does not have the opportunity to play on that field in Diego Martin. Now, obviously, I understand there must be checks and balances. You can't have it like a park. But to block it off and not give the persons in that area, it meant to them, many of them saying, well, it's best we kept the field like how it was. At least young children could go and play. There were 2 football fields there before the stadium was built. It allowed us to have the opportunity to play sport. Now, nothing could be done because you have turned that now into a facility similar to the National Stadium. And therein lies the problem. Because you see, as the one thing that government, when it is the more stadiums you build, the more schools that you build, and you double the price. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, for example, the NYPD has less police stations than the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and they see about the security of tens of millions of persons daily. We see about 1.4, but we have more police stations because politicians love that. They love to build things, mark up the price 4 times over, and then cut a ribbon, and then whoever's the contractor gets a good markup. That is the type of nonsense that must stop, because we believe that every time somebody breaks the law, you need to build a police station. And the same thing happened with sport. You do not need to be building a stadium in every single street corner. What people need is areas where it can allow them to have the opportunity to play, to train, to relax, to walk your dog, to exercise. But you decide to build that stadium in Diego Martin, and now the young persons have very little and nowhere to go. So we have all of these 5 stadiums built that was supposed to be built because of the Under-17 World Cup in 1999, I think. And now these stadiums are all dilapidated. They're not being utilized. They have very little value. And now you're building more, when it is that even these present stadiums, the stadium that we have, are not being utilized. It is bad management. But as I said, governments love that. They love to build these things and increase the price. The police stations, for example, you build a police station in Tobago that could hold 250 people. That's more than the number of all the officers in Tobago. So there will never be a need for that. So again, when you go back to New York, some of these police stations are precincts. There's some of them the size of a container. But we have massive 4-story buildings in every single area for police. And because of that, you have massive tens of millions a month in maintenance costs. I had to cut those costs by stating by 7 p.m., the other than the first floor where the police will be, all air conditions, all lights will be switched off. That's actually saved the taxpayers tens of millions of dollars. And again, going back to the stadium, you build that, you keep generating and pumping tens of millions to maintain these things. The cost-benefit analysis that the village, the community gets from it is virtually non-existent.
So what we're going to do, Gary, you can stay a little longer with us?
Yes, certainly. Sure.
Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to go for a quick break. And when we come back, Uncle Tommy's going to join us. He can't wait to see you, Larry. You know, he's been waiting patiently in your background. So we're going to go for a quick station identification, folks. It's Sunday Talk. Let's talk politics with yours truly, Professor Walshit, Uncle Tommy, you know, NTA political leader Gary Griffith, and you on WZYE 95.9 FM. We'll be right back after this.
You're listening to WZYE 95.9 FM. You are listening to WZYE 95.9 FM, the most influential name in Caribbean radio in the tri-state area. Broadcasting from East Orange, New Jersey, the most influential name in Caribbean radio, WZYE 95.9 FM.
We are back with you. It's in the village. It's Sunday Talk. Let's talk politics with yours truly, Professor Walshit, Uncle Tommy, and NTA political leader Gary Griffith. Uncle Tommy, welcome.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yeah, it's a pleasure being here in the village.
So we're having a spirited conversation here. Mr. Griffith, George Sprang Winter. I think you addressed that question already, but could you just answer it for him again? He came in.
Oh, yes, I'm not sitting here. Well, as I mentioned, the reason why we named it Transformation and Alliance was to transform the mindset of politics in Trinidad and Tobago an alliance not just of minds, but also other political parties who may have the same ideologies, principles for good governance. So we will continue to open the door. It's something that Basio Pandey always tried to put a government of national unity. It didn't work. I hope that we can find some avenue to open that window and to allow persons to circle the wagons. Let's work together. Let's see what we can do to achieve. Trying to speak about this, it is my political party and we intend to win alone and we must win alone. I beg to differ. Everybody, it is your right. The UNC, they will have persons who believe it is their right to state that the UNC can win alone. The data will show that that can never happen. But there are persons in the NT that also believe that we are better than anyone else and we must go on our own as well. So it is the right of persons to have their degree of opinion. I am not making a decision as a political leader based on what I feel. That is, I think, has been one of the biggest problems in politics. If a political leader says we're supporting Gary, everybody will agree. If he or she says, we don't like him, 90% of them will automatically stop liking him. And that is amazing, where political parties on both sides would like Gary or don't like Gary, depending on if it is that the political leader is on good terms with him. I will ask persons, sometimes we need to be independent thinkers and not just blindly support our political leader because of the decision that he or she makes. So the window will always be open for constant dialogue. Dialogue is an effective tool towards good governance. And may I also add just finally on that point, I don't want to make too many comments pertaining to things that we want to do in transformation of the economy, health, national security, because I make a statement and next thing is an alliance, and in that alliance is that decided we didn't want to do that. And now I'm committed by making that statement. So I have to be very careful of the things that I say, but I'll give you a simple example of something that I would like to see. State boards. State boards has been one of the most effective measures of incompetence that you will see, and possibly even corruption throughout the length and breadth of Trinidad and Tobago's politics, because everyone who is selected on the state board is not based on qualification. There's no qualifying factor for you to be on a state board. The main thing is what party card you have in your back pocket and if it equates with the government of the day. And so when these individuals get in a state board, there's no knowledge, training, qualification, or experience in the field of the state board you're in, but you have to get a fix-up. And then with that, it may cause a degree of mismanagement, incompetence, and maybe even corruption. I would love to see a system where 10% of all state board members must be members of the opposition to allow checks and balances to prevent mismanagement and incompetence, as well as a basic minimum degree of qualifying for the state board that you're in. But again, that is my personal view. I'm not here to make a statement and next thing is an alliance. They say, but Gary Griffith, you said that. That's why I have to be very careful of policies that we would like to see that we do not want to see as yet because we do not know what is going to happen down the road.
Now, property tax. I want to ask you a specific question about property tax. Does property tax have anything to do with explain your wealth?
It can to some extent. It's interesting that you said that. I was the one who drafted the Explain Your Wealth as the Minister of National Security. In 2014, I drafted a law for Explain Your Wealth because I realized the police were getting lots of problems trying to target persons who may have been involved in some degree of white-collar crime. Because when it is that, again, you have governments that will give criminal elements a $5 million state contract to build a box tree that costs $50,000. And then many times it's cash that's being distributed. So it's very difficult. However, under Explain Your Wealth, how I drafted it, if you have 3 houses valued over $20 million, you have 5 vessels, you have you have funds and assets, fixed assets, all we ask you is tell us how you got it. Not everyone was pleased in my own government when I did that, because they said, well, I've worked for it. I said, no, well, this is not to take away anything that you earn, This is to find an avenue to prevent corruption and to deal with white-collar crime. After I left as Minister of National Security, the incoming government came, and the Attorney General Faris Alwari, he just cut and paste exactly what I had, which I had no problem with. This is something that I wanted when I was in government. And that Explain Your Wealth, I don't think it has been as effective as it should, but it's along the line of our international intelligence agencies pinpointing certain persons, and it could be from a police constable who, based on his salary, it is impossible that he may have that. And sometimes people could, by the way, let's not, whether it is you win the lotto, whether it is inheritance, whether it is that your wife is involved in a business. So this is not to say that based on your salary, it is impossible. What it has, however, it gives us the right to ask, how did you get this? How did you acquire this? And that is a good avenue. The property tax, no. The property tax is a system primarily based on trying to find a way for the government to lift their income to offset and balance their expenditure because of poor governance. And that's what they do. The PNM finds the only way they could try to find a source of income is to find something with taxes. That's all they do. There's nothing as it pertains to investment towards trying to divert the concept of the economy. I just spoke about sports tourism, for example. Jamaica, their first 2 months of this year, they acquired $1 billion US in one ministry alone. That was tourism. So you're looking at $1 billion US, roughly 7 million TT in one ministry alone. So which means that Jamaica's tourism industry, when you multiply that 7 by 6, they are going to make what that Jamaica makes is more than Trinidad and Tobago's annual budget in everything that we have done in all the ministries. And we do not ever see anything as an income generator. Health is another perfect example. We can utilize health towards finding an income generator similar to other places that put focus on all sorts of things, from lipo, from dealing with certain medical things like cancer and so forth. We only see the Ministry of Health as something that you must spend money on and you get nothing in return. That is when you have a government that does not think out of the box. So the property tax is a simple example as that. My concept, as I said, when you have a $50-60 billion budget, the police service alone, I was able to reduce 300 million TT annually in overtime corruption, because we had over 200 police officers claiming they were working 24 hours a day, 30 days a month, 70,000 TT a month, and then that was being obviously somebody else who was signing was getting a cut. When I reduced the fact to stop police vehicles, one vehicle being refueled to top up 4 times for the day, you know you're topping up your own vehicle. When it is that you had certain areas where every time a police vehicle is down, you're going by a certain garage who's your friend, and it might be a small part to change, and next thing it's a whole overhaul, and I'm getting a bill for $100,000. That is how you clean up the country, by reducing wastage, reducing corruption, and now by doing that, by reducing your expenditure, there's no need now for you to find another source of income to lift your income to balance it with the expenditure. And that's what they're doing right now. They're seeing the importance of property tax to balance with the expenditure. Find a way to reduce your expenditure through the corruption, incompetence, mismanagement, and possible corruption.
You know, I didn't understand, right? When I hear the Minister of Finance talk about the problem with property tax is some people not got to explain your wealth. And I was saying to myself, well, many of us here in America pay property tax. Many of us. And I didn't understand how you could make the leap with, if I have 5 properties, right? And you didn't ask me nothing, but I'm paying my property tax, going and paying my property tax.
Exactly. Listen, Colin Imbert has shortcomings, not just height, but shortcomings as it pertains to common sense. The property tax can never be seen as a generator towards an avenue to align the person to being corrupt. I drafted the Explain Your Wealth. I did it. So I know the importance of it. And the Explain Your Wealth is based on the intelligence agencies pinpointing that this gang leader, this police constable, this politician has X, Y, and Z, but we know that his salary is this. And you get that primarily from the Integrity Commission by persons in public office. When you do that, you can now target and say, listen, sir, there's nothing, we are not accusing you of anything, but we realize you have 5 houses, we realize that you have 8 Mercedes, and all we're asking is, how did you get this? That is all. But property tax is not an avenue for that, because anybody who has a house and you're paying the property tax for it, that is not an avenue to pinpoint you to being a criminal element. That is the height of stupidity, because Colin Imbert never looked at the draft of what I did from the Explain Your Wealth and that Faris Alwari refurbished towards their law being sent out.
But Gary, when you listen to some of them on the RPNM radio hosts and activists, them was like, yeah, we understand now why people questioning the property tax. And I have to say this, the only place in the world where people want to pay property tax is PNM people in Trinidad and Tobago. I'm serious.
And it reminds me now, sorry for going back, but it was known as civil asset forfeiture. That was the law that I drafted, civil asset forfeiture, because I did immense research in different countries in the world, and civil asset forfeiture was a system where we can seize your assets if you can't account for how you acquired your assets. So that was a big hit. And then that's when Faris Alwari changed it to explain your wealth. But civil asset forfeiture is the one thing, whatever you have, and you're not going to, that is not going to target you as a criminal because of the property tax that you pay. That is stupidity. There's going to be a system, because people have property tax they pay because of a massive mortgage that they have, because of their wife or inheritance or whatever. Or you may very well be a very successful businessman. So all of that, because of you paying property tax, is not a way to measure and target you of being involved in criminal activity. That is totally unacceptable. There's a caller that somebody just wrote and asked, what do I intend to do with persons who may have some degree of relevance in trying to improve the country to be part of the NTA? I said it from day one. The NTA is not one that I would like to have a government that the only persons who must be in an NTA government because you're a political member of the NTA. This is what Trinidad and Tobago we do constantly, and probably most countries in the world. You win an election, whether it is red or yellow, what happens is that for 50% of the country becomes totally isolated, and you cannot use the expertise of those individuals because they have the wrong party card. So what happens is that if we need the top 4 persons for positions, it means that by and large, it will be the first and the third qualified persons that will get it. The second and fourth will not be eligible because of their party card. So now you're going to get inferior quality persons filling the breach for these positions, whether it be state board, cabinet, or whatever, because of the party card affiliation. So in the positions of state boards or whatever, we do not get the best minds available because we totally eliminate half because of the party card that they have. If it is that you do not want to contribute to the development of the country because you're not a member of the NTA or UNC or the PNM, that's fine. My concept is that I want to get the best minds available regardless of your political party card to assist in the development of Trinidad and Tobago. I have seen so many square pegs and wrong holes in and out of cabinet that would have destroyed so many things that could have assisted in the development of our country. And I think we need to stop that.
Now, what exactly is the NTA's position on the property tax?
Well, as I said, it is difficult for me to give my impression. And next thing you know, I say that, and then there's an alliance, and the alliance comes with a template of this is where we're going with in the pre-election campaign. People are then going to come back and tell Gary, but you said that. And so I have to be very careful of the comments that I make. As it pertains to the NTA, at present, as I said, I do not see the value for property tax if it is that you can be a good government. Stop all of this thing with mismanagement. Look at the Brian Lara Stadium, gentlemen. We're speaking about a $7 million US stadium that cost 200 million US. When you do things like that, there's no need for property tax. And that is my point. So if we have a $60 billion TT budget, we could very well have a budget down to 50 billion TT without needing the property tax to balance your budget, while it's not affecting production and productivity, sorry. And that is the angle I would like to see. As I said, I did it with the police service. We were able to save hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars a year based on stopping corruption from overtime, corruption from police officers doing extra duties, corruption from fuel, refueling vehicles, corruption from taking police vehicles, carried in a garage, who you may know. And then as soon as I left, everything started back again. So now the country is now being forced to pay hundreds upon hundreds of millions based on police corruption or mismanagement because of improper leadership and accountability. If we had gone back to what I did, then the police would have been able to not say, well, we don't have enough money to change the uniform. We have the police service in a uniform, look like security guards. They don't have the proper tasers, the proper body cameras, the dashboard cameras on the vehicles, the type of units, the training, the technology that they need. And that is in customer service training. So because of that, the police is collapsing and not being as successful as they would have been. No fault of the police officers. They are not being given the tools because of bad management, bad governance. So if it is that is done across the board in all the ministries, you can actually cut, as I said, probably several $1 billion through inefficiency, incompetence, mismanagement, and even corruption. And then you will not need the property tax to balance the budget.
So here's a question someone sent me. Ansem, question for Gary. What he and his wife plan for children that live in orphan homes, instead of putting them out on streets to the wolves, why not build a halfway home until 25? Remember, they put them out at 18. That's why so many crimes out there.
No, that's a very good point. And again, it's something that you don't see why this government doesn't put a proper approach to look after it. We have gone through the same basic thing. We call it MILAC, we call it MIPAD, we call it CCC, which was the Civilian Conservation Corps. And there's so little that is done for young persons after they leave. At 18, you're an adult, you have to fend for yourself. And if it is again going back to the element of all of these different projects that governments have done, and they call it all sort of fancy things, hundreds of millions of dollars pumped into it. If we utilize those same funds, and again going back to the CPEP and all of these different things where over 100 million is spent, if you remove that and take away the middleman who has been involved in, as I said, you're paying $5 million US to build a $50,000 box drain. You eliminate all of that. You can actually give every single young person an unemployment check. Something similar you can look at to Canada, where at least they have something to pay their bills, to eat a meal, and probably to assist them in a development system to direct them into finding something, some niche market that has their talent. And many young persons do not ever understand what is their talent because they were never given that opportunity. And that is very unfortunate. And it goes right back, a simple example of something known as ADHD. ADHD with young, I think in the United States, 7% of boys ADHD. And in Trinidad, and because the United States education system is so mature, they understand that when you have ADHD, we understand it is not an ailment, it is not a sickness. Some of the most successful persons in the world have ADHD. But the ADHD means that you need to find that not common cure, but that niche that you are so good at that you will spend all of your time and energy and make you the best that you can be. The owner of Virgin Atlantic, so many different people have some of the top footballers in the world, ADHD. But because they're in Trinidad and Tobago, let me tell you what happens here. You have ADHD, it means that you can't sit down in a classroom for 5 hours. So what they do immediately, you're talkative, you're a troublemaker, you'll never get anywhere in school and life. My son had ADHD. And then because I was able to do, I had the facility to do the background. What we did is the teachers allowed him in his school after every hour. He just had to sprint from one end of the corridor to the other, just to burn his energy and sit down. And with that, it allowed him to concentrate. That is not a fault. And that is where it is. We need to improve our whole standard of governance. So what the person spoke about is not just about what happens after they're 18. It's our whole education system that needs revamping. And because we lose probably 7% of our young adult population going in the wrong direction, because we have totally misunderstood the concept of how you deal with young persons suffering from ADHD. 7%, you're speaking about, so for every 100 young men, at least 7, and women as well, ADHD, but more boys, 7 out of 100 could go the wrong direction because of bad systems in our education system.
So anyway, let me ask this question. Highly asked question. Can your sports strategy generate revenue locally without the help of foreign government donations?
Yeah, I just mentioned that. I spoke about CPL. Guyana, it got an injection of over 100 million US for the CPL over the last 3 years when they had CPL, the semifinals and finals. When we have CPL here in Trinidad and Tobago, we have 20,000 persons in probably the most popular cricket ground in this part of the world, Queen's Park Oval. Those 20,000 people will now go out and be spending hundreds of dollars, especially foreigners who come to Trinidad, to be able to go to the bars, the nightclubs, the taxis, the restaurants. That's how you inject the economy, just sports tourism alone with CPL. Similar to if it is that we fix our stadium in a proper manner, we have a proper system. Why is it that the English Premier League, when the Manchester United, the Liverpools, the Arsenal, the Chelseas, when they leave at the end of the season, why do they always have to go to the United States to play into Miami? No, they want to go in a warm climate, but why not come to Trinidad and Tobago? You bring one of these teams here, you're going to generate hundreds of millions that you could be getting annually from media rights and so forth. So all of those things, the AstroTurf that we have the only AstroTurf in the Southern Caribbean that can be used for international hockey and other types of sport. So the point being is that sport tourism can put a major injection in providing income to assist the balancing the budget. Another simple avenue to prevent you feeling that it is mandatory to tax your way to balance a budget.
Yeah, we never ever, when they started with the property tax. By the way, Sir Griffith, Colin Burt stood up in the parliament and said the property tax was 2.7%. And I told him, no, it's not 2.7%. And I told him, I said, give me any number, an assessed value, annual rental value, and I will figure out the tax using 3%. And then Brian Manning went on a radio station and said, well, she don't know what you're talking about. That Trinidad and Tobago had one of the lowest property tax in the Western Hemisphere. And I was asking myself, but wait now, I wonder if United States is in the Western Hemisphere. I wonder if all them Caribbean islands is the Western Hemisphere. Maybe I wasn't too good at geography or I missed something. And we had to tell them that the tax is regressive and oppressive, right? And still at 2%. And this is our opinion here. For example, my next door neighbor to me here don't pay the same percentage as I do. My next door neighbor across there don't pay the same percentage as I do. And in my opinion, everybody shouldn't be paying 2% tax across the board. Because houses in America, it's all about location.
Yeah. And and let me add something. There's a video done by Vasan Barrett, and it was very interesting and factual.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
If there was the slight perception that by putting this property tax, it is going to ensure now that the country will be able to get the type of resources needs that are required, people will say maybe okay, but it's not going to happen. All that this is another avenue to inject income into the government that is going to be mismanaged, misused, and you're going to have the same high crime rate, you're going to have the same bad roads, you're going to have the same improper water supply, because the money that you're going to get is not going to be the avenue towards assisting you in improving your incompetence. So having the same square pegs in the wrong holes is not going to assist Shampa Kudjo in getting our national sporting teams to develop better. It's not going to affect Minister Gonzalez in getting a system where the vast majority of the country do not have a 24-hour water supply. It is not going to assist in improving the standard of our police service to reduce crime. So that is the problem. You're asking the country to put their hands in their pocket, put out more towards improving and increasing your budget allocation, but we are not going to get an increased deliverable in the needs of in the goods and services that we require, that you are supposed to be given to us. So all that it is, and so in other words, in a year's time, they're going to find something else to tax. And they keep increasing taxes, whether it is fuel, whatever it is, and you're not seeing an increase in the overall improvement in goods and services.
Well, the Minister of Finance said that's why they bring in property tax so you could get more water, so you could get water now.
Yeah, but remember they said that when every time they increase fuel, they said that for everything, and they said they didn't riot as yet. So when all of these increases in taxes came, where was the improvement in the delivery of goods and services? What it is that you could tell us that is going to give us the perception that by this now is going to improve it? You're not. You continue to increase your expenditure through incompetence, mismanagement, corruption, and maybe even, as I said, corruption. But you're not trying to show us that by increasing your income, it is going to make sure that you're going to get an improvement in your goods and services.
No,
Go ahead, Tommy.
No, I'm a bit late, but I had these two questions for you, Mr. Griffith. I wanted to know what's your take on what has been going on with the SSA, number one, and number two, the spill in Tobago and how it's being managed and handled. What's your take on these two topics?
Sure. Well, with the SSA, this has yet again been an avenue to show that the Prime Minister believes that as the chair of the National Security Council, he has some dictatorial authority as pertains to national security, which is what he did when he tried to influence me to say that we should arrest persons within their homes, which would have been not just unethical but illegal. And the same thing when it is he pumped funds and then told us to utilize these funds to target persons of political opponents. In this situation with the SSA, it is no different. The man had the audacity recently to state that Cabinet never gave the approval for the SSA to carry firearms. How you can't be dumber than that. You're a politician. You can never give approval through Cabinet to approve any arm of the state to have firearms. This is not a communist state. So for you to say that, it shows you don't even understand your role and function. For you to make an amendment, it has to go in law in Parliament. And it's the same thing with the Firearms Act. When he and I had the issue, he kept lying and stating that there's a government policy for Firearms Act. The day he could show me that government policy, I will resign in politics tomorrow. That is a lie. There's no such thing as government policy for a Firearm Act. So going back to the SSA, what he has done is try to give the impression that the government must have the be-all and end-all in the operational aspect of it. And the SSA is similar to the CIA. Let's put it to you all from a lower level, obviously. But the CIA, you think that White House needs to give approval for a member of the CIA to carry a firearm? You can't be that dumb. But his impression is always, see if I could play a game of aha, we catch him this time. And he keeps trying, and it continues to cause mass mayhem, confusion. So you're targeting the head of the Integrity Commission, the Industrial Court, the Commissioner of Police, the Director of the SSA. Every single person who seems to have an independent voice, even the judge. There was a judge recently that was accurate when Justice C. Prasad said that the Commissioner of Police, based on laziness, was saying, well, I didn't have time to sign someone's FUL because I was busy. Madness, right? But what the judge said is that you have a right to have athletes said yes or no. The Prime Minister says he doesn't agree with the judge because the judge has to understand government policy. Are you crazy? That has nothing to do with government policy. It means that if you hold a position of authority in the state and you're given a document by a citizen, you better find time and actually say, yes, I'm approving it, or no, I'm not approving it. And if you don't approve it, he can then go to the appeals board. But don't be so lazy that for several years you didn't reply. And that is what caused the problem in firearms. 25,000 applicants, none even being the common courtesy to even acknowledge, because we had commissioners before me that probably never went on a range in years because they don't understand how to use a firearm or the importance of it for a law-abiding citizen. So the SSA situation is just a whole set of bacchanal that has been done in no other way other than to try to find an avenue. Look, this fellow not going to adhere to my tune, sing to my tune, or dance to my tune. I need to remove him. Just as he did with the Industrial Quartet, just as he did with the Integrity Commission, just as he did with the Commissioner of Police, just as he did now with the head of the SSA. That is what you call democratic dictatorship, where it is you have a democratic country, but because of our constitution being so flawed, it allows one man that virtually handpicks the Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate, the President of the country, the Chief Justice, all members of State Board, all members of Cabinet, the Commissioner of Police, the Director of the SSC, and the Chief of Defense Staff. If that is not a dictatorial country, I don't know what is. The other question you asked, particularly, and again, it goes back as the Minister of National Security back in 2015 and the Commissioner of Police. We had the systems for a proper drone, and that drone would have been able to turn night into day, would be able to lock and monitor certain things that would be happening. Anything that enters the country, we can immediately pinpoint it, target it, lock on it, and have the Coast Guard have an immediate interception. We had a national operations center to do just that. All of these things were dismantled, shut down, and removed. We had, I was able to acquire vessels to lock down this country at a cost of 1.2 billion TT less than the same vessels they were bringing from the OPVs. That was shut down, and those vessels have remained in Stubbles, in Chagaramas, parked up for the last 10 years because of, again, bad mind. Gary Griffith acquired it, we're not using it. If those things were all implemented, we would have been able to get that preemptive strike. You can't tell me something of that. Suppose that was something with nuclear devices on it. How could you see something that entered that and nobody knows about it? That is why we have a problem with our porous borders. Dealing with that, the U.S. Embassy confirmed with me that 97 or 95% of our illegal weapons enter the country through the legitimate ports of entry, because it's not because of the porous borders from the illegal ports of entry, but because we do not have a proper border protection unit. And we lose about 10 containers annually that leave our ports without even being checked. So as much as the police will seize about 700 firearms a year, one container could have 7,000 firearms. So what the police would have seized in 10 years internally could get back out onto the streets in one night. And Colin Imbert has the audacity to say, we can't do anything about it because it will cause a backlog in the containers being cleared. So be it. So what? The most fundamental rights of citizens is safety and security. If it means that your container will be held back a week or two to make sure that every single thing in that container is checked, let us do so. I got mobile scanners to check to see if weapons are found in vehicles and containers. They shut that down as well. So that system with the barge just goes right back to the degree of incompetence by this government. And even with the situation with the 4 divers, I drafted the policy and to get the cabinet note for what is known as a UAV, unmanned aerial vehicle underwater. That could have played a big part towards possibly seeing what was happening and find an avenue to be able to have assisted those divers. Nothing was there. Everyone twiddled their thumbs because the National Operations Center that I drafted and implemented and established based on the approval and the recommendation by the Commission of Inquiry into the attempted coup in 1990, it has been shut down as well. And had there been that NOC, we'd have been able to get real-time information, real-time decisions by persons with the qualification, not civilians in a place twiddling their thumbs and not knowing what to do, whilst these guys, they were losing oxygen.
No, Gary, there are some people, right, who asked the question. They said that based on the amount of FUL that was issued, right, have any of those FUL responded in any type of criminal activities or criminal behaviors? You know, I mean, a certain percentage.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. You see, and it again shows the ignorance of Fitzgerald Hines and Keith Rowley. Because you increase numbers, that does not mean that it increases the chance of the wrong persons getting firearms. In fact, that is what happened before me, because persons were getting firearms based on who had contact with the commissioner, who close to this minister, and they will come up and they will fast track it. I refuse to do that. Every single person who wanted to get a firearm, it must go through the 10 division commanders. So again, Keith Rowley lied. And you know, people are always afraid to say they lied because they're afraid to get sued. Keith Rowley lied. He lied last week in misinformation with the Prime Minister when he said that I took away the authority from the divisional heads. To start with, the authority only lies to sign with the Commissioner of Police, Keith. Keith Rowley needs to spend more time reading the laws than playing golf 4 days a week. So you'll understand that before he makes these stupid comments, how incorrect it is. That stayed with the heads of the division. You did the due diligence, you did the background check, you go to the homes, you speak to the friends of the individual, you speak to the spouse. Then you had 3 months to bring it up to the firearm compliance unit. When we did all of that, that minimized, if not eliminated, the possibility that the wrong persons will get the firearms. And that is why in my 3 years, I gave out 6,000 firearms out of 25,000. 6,000 out of 25,000. And in that 6,000, 3,000 were to law enforcement officials, police officers, firemen, customs, army, prison officers, past and present, whose lives were at risk. And you had a problem with that? And out of those 3,000 civilians, that is 0.3% of the population, 0.3%. And this lunatic is telling the country, Gary's concept was to liberally give firearms to everybody. How could 0.3% of the population be given out to everyone? And the hypocrisy of him is that he's the same one that was harassing me to get a firearm dealership for a partner he knows in Tobago or somebody he knows in Tobago to sell more firearms. And between himself, a minister, and an acting commissioner of police, between the three of them, they asked me to get firearms for over 60-odd persons. If we did that for all the ministers, that would be over 700 firearms per annum, and I was giving out 2,000. So it shows how clueless he is in when he made those statements. And in that 3-year period, because of the stringent system that I had, not one was lost, not one was stolen, not one was used for a crime, because we had the FUL card with a chip. And the chip now will ensure that if at any time there's a report made at a police station for domestic violence, it can immediately be red flagged to the FUL department to do that, hey, we had to seize this guy's firearm. The wife just reported that he beat her. That is how professional we had. They removed the card, they removed the chip, they went back to the old time days, no compliance unit, so the wrong people could be getting firearms. So that's why I could boast that in my era, no weapon was lost, stolen, or used for a crime. In fact, dozens upon dozens of lives were saved. And he had a problem with it. But then to state that the concept of my system was too liberal, had I continued giving out 2,000 firearms a year, in the 3 years I gave out 6,000, and there were 25,000 applicants, it meant it would have taken 12 to 15 years before the backlog would have even been completed. And you see that has been a problem. And the lies continued when he said that 64,000 firearms came into the country. Why would any firearm dealer bring in 64,000 firearms if I am only issuing 2,000? That meant it would have taken 32 years before they would have been able to sell their asset. By that time, it's a musket. Nobody will want it. So it shows that what he does, which he's good at, say the same lie over and over and hope people will believe you.
Well, I tell you, because I was, I hear. No, Gary, with that FUL thing, right? There is something about, they stopped the Prime Minister from reading out something in the Parliament.
Yeah.
Can you bring us up to date on that?
Yes, certainly. The one thing Keith Rowley knows and he's bright about is the one place that you can lie and not be sued is in Parliament. So that's what he did with Emailgate. He got his piece of paper with 17 typographical errors, knowing that it was typewritten and not an email, and then read it out in Parliament to smear the character of others. That's what he's good at. But he knows now, because I've sued him for about 4 other matters, and he will go in court and be cross-examined to explain why did you try to smear my character with lies. So what only in a banana republic will people think that a government with politicians can handpick people close to them, give them a big job, pay them big money, the state that is, and then let them do an audit or a report on a matter of possible criminal activity. This is not a communist state. So you as a state hire people, pay them the big money, which means if I'm being paid, I would probably want to give you exactly what you want to hear, and then read it out and then say, look what I heard about the person. So my point is, you didn't even have the common courtesy to speak to me about that report. So these persons who did the audit, to show how incompetent they're either incompetent or they had a deliberate agenda. How could you do an audit? Have you ever heard an audit being done in a company and the head of the company was never questioned? Because I would be able to show every single thing you're stating is a lie. So they didn't speak to me. So under natural justice to start with, you cannot reveal a report without even speaking to the person who would have been able to say this, and that is a lie. The second thing is, when it is you read out these things, it is alleged, it has been reported, and we have been told. That is all it takes to smear the character in Trinidad and Tobago, good rum shop talk. So the point being is that if you want to read out anything about me based on you hiring people to speak about me, don't go in Parliament like a coward and lie, say it out in public. And that is what this was about. This was about him. Why would you want to go to Parliament to read a report? This is not a law that needed amended. This is a report that the state handpicked people to be so incompetent, not even to speak to the head of the department, myself, and then you write a report. So he wanted to read it out, but he knew that if he said it outside, I would have sued him for every single golf club he has, and he wouldn't be able to play golf again. So what he wanted to do was to go to Parliament. So Parliament is the one place, as I said, you could lie and read it out. And that is the issue that I'm speaking about. Because notice, after 3 years, these people are civilians, these people are civilians with no law enforcement authority. But in 3 years, not one person has even been questioned as it pertains to any corrupt activity pertaining to firearms. So how come it could be such a massive, well-oiled criminal industry, and after 3 years, not one conviction, not one charge, not one arrest, not one person questioned, to the desperation that what they did was to send police officers to Barbados to kidnap a Trinidad and Tobago citizen in Barbados, and he has now sued Barbados as well, because Barbados sadly got bad information, and the only person who could have allowed police officers to leave the country to go ahead and do that would be a senior government minister. And I promise you, the day we get in government, I'm doing an immediate investigation to have that minister questioned for possible misconduct in office by aiding and abetting in committing a kidnapping.
So, Gary, is the NTA going to go up for all 41 constituencies?
We're not too sure. As I said, the role of a political party is to get in government and to be in politics. So, as it is right now, the UNC said it. They said that they are opening for all 41 candidates in all 41 constituencies. Sorry, we may very well do the same. If and when the time comes of a possible alliance, that is when it will give and take will take place. So, the candidate for constituency X, if it's NTA, and UNC wants to have that candidate take part, that NTA candidate might now support the UNC candidate to provide them with the previous ONR, NAR, COP voters to help them. That is what happened in the local government election. When I walked the length and breadth of the country in Trinidad, in all of the hills, and which was interesting, I went and I went to the 31 hardest seats, the 31 safest seats that the PNM had, walking the length and breadth of the corridor from all up in Scorpion and Caranage, Simeon Road in all of the hills in Cocorite, Paramin, going all up in the hills in Laventille, Sealots, Beatum, all through the hills in St. Joseph, Tunapuna, the hills in Arima, the length and breadth of San Fernando and Sangre Grande. What happened in San Fernando, for example, wasn't because there was there was a greater increase in UNC support. It would have been NTA voters, knowing that there was an alliance with the UNC, that they voted for the UNC candidate. So again, and some people have been mischievous to say, for example, in San Fernando, the UNC said they got 10,000 votes in the local government in 2020. But then in 2023, they got 9,000. What they said is, look, well, the NT didn't bring extra votes. No, there was massive disenchantment and discontent by the voting population that moved from 34 to 30%. But had it not been for the NTA, the UNC would not have acquired the 9,000. It may have been 8,000 or something. So we were able to make sure we brought back persons to the table. That's why PNM lost 33,000 votes from 2019 local government, but the UNC only lost 10,000 because we were able to bring back those disenchanted UNC voters or the NTA previous COP voters to vote for the UNC candidates in those other 110 seats. That is the type of alliance that will always cause the PNM to be defeated in a unification. As I said, it happened in 1986, it happened in 1995, it happened in 2010, and it is going to happen in 2025 if there's that type of strategic alliance.
Yes, Gary.
Go ahead, Tommy.
Gary, we have to be careful that the wrong messages aren't sent to the voting population, that there are dissension among the partners. And I'm saying that to say that it has to be clear that the cooperation with the various parties exists before the actual election takes place. Because if there are misinformation, or should I say misconceptions about the unity not being strong, it will cost the alliance as opposed to enhancing the alliance.
Agreed 100%. And that is why, sometimes people are afraid for confrontation. I believe in transparency. I am not going to, you see what happened in 2010 is what caused that. There were 5 political leaders. They went to Pfizer and signed a piece of paper. That cannot be an alliance. That cannot be an alliance of minds. And all that we are saying is let us deal with the issues now. Let us make sure that the public understands that we intend to trash out and deal with these issues. And it is not going to be a marriage of convenience. So this is not about the NTA just bringing our voters to come and vote for the UNC candidate for there to be a UNC government. We've done that. What we are asking is that there must be some degree of mutual respect. There must be some degree of dialogue, as well as all NTA candidates and voters must understand and respect the value of the UNC because they have 19 seats. They have the majority of the voters. But in the same manner, what those bridge constituency voters want is to ensure that this is not a case of us just voting for UNC candidates for there to be a UNC government and the third parties have no say in the running of the government, which is what happened with the COP. And this is not in any way to attack or discredit the UNC for what happened. There was a breakdown in communication, and my style of leadership may be different to Winston Lucran or Prakash Ramada, not knocking them for what they did. But the concept is that I am stating that I intend to make sure that the problems that existed in 2010 to 2015, we trash it out now. And by us trashing it out now, the country will now believe that this is going to be sustainable, it will be long-lasting, it will have mutual respect, it will be genuine, and it will ensure towards making sure that this is going to be the best government this country would have seen in decades.
No, Gary, with the NTA still being a coalition with the UNC, if PEP is part of that coalition?
Well, there's no coalition right now. As I said, right now there's no coalition. The alliance is something that worked for the local government election. We need to get back to the drawing board to ascertain who would be part of this new alliance. The one thing that I listened to Kamala Prasad besides her comments, and it is true, I will agree with her, that all political parties being part of this alliance must be assessed to verify that they would not be in any way a party that is going to cause issues, and that's inclusive of the NTA. So we must be assessed. The UNC must be assessed as well, because it's not a case of the UNC being the bigger party so that they are just assessing anybody who comes in. And that's why when I keep hearing the comments, if you're not with the UNC, then you're PNM. I could say the same thing about the NTA. If you're not supporting with the NTA, then you're PNM. We can't be going down that road. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. We must circle the wagons. And by doing that, it cannot be seen that I am the big brother and we will just follow. Everybody comes under the umbrella of the UNC. That is not going to get us into government. There will always be that bridge constituency of that 150,000 odd that will not want to vote for the PNM or the UNC. They will be forced to either or if there's no bridge constituency. This election there is. So it means that people will have a choice. And if there is that choice, we need to make sure that there's going to be that degree of mutual respect to ensure that it works and it is long lasting and there's a proper foundation to prevent it from collapsing.
So Gary, I like the answer you give me there, you know. You're on my wrong bodies your house.
Then I pick up price. No, but I'm serious that there's no decision that can be made until we come up to our rules of engagement.
Yeah, but listen to this. But Gary, listen to this. We speculating here. We're going on the New York Stock Exchange. I work on the New York Stock Exchange for 23 years, and I speculating here. We speculating, right? Let's say the UNC decide that PEP is going to be part of the unification, right? We're talking about just before the general election, the decision was made, and they say PEP is going to be part of the unification. What says you about the NTA being part of that unification?
No, well, then there's not a unification. The UNC can't say that, and that's the point I'm trying to state. If there are stakeholders who want to be part of an alliance of minds to get into government, the UNC can't say that we want this, and you have no say in the matter. Then then it becomes no different to the government of 2010 to 2015. That's my point. Anytime that type of arrangement is made with the UNC saying we will decide who's in and who's out, well, then we have now become silent partners, similar to what happened in the COP in 2010 to 2015. The country, they don't want that. Those COP voters do not want to be silent partners, to be told who will come in, who will come out, and we alone will be assessed. There must be some degree of equity, where every single political party must be respected. You must understand the role and function and importance of that party. If at any time there's that perception that we are not important and you don't need us, well, then go ahead. That is your right, and I respect you for that. And we will go ahead, and you will most probably get the results of 1981, 1991, and 2007. You provide some degree, and I think that is what caused the problems in 1986 and 2010, where there was a cosmetic political marriage of convenience, and that is what we don't want. We also don't want political domestic violence, where even with the NTA, we can't be bullying the UNC or vice versa. So what should happen is that I want to make sure we can unify all of these political parties. And mind you, this is when we get in government, it is not in any way to target the PNM, but to try to work with the PNM in trying to help develop Trinidad and Tobago.
So last question for me, right? There are some who says that in your past incarnation, you had said that you was going to run against Dr. Rowley in Diego Martin. And now we see that you're going to run in St. Joseph instead. Why the change your mind?
Everything in life is strategy and tactics. The concept is that virtually it happens, who wins St. Joseph wins the election. PNM could find Barack Obama and bring him. With Gary Griffith, they curtail book, especially in a two-horse race. So it's all based on strategy and the importance of strategy. As I said, you win St. Joseph, you win the election. So that is the importance of that seat. And bearing in mind that, as I said, I spent almost half of my life in St. Joseph. On three occasions, I was earmarked to be the candidate for St. Joseph for the UNC. That was in 2007. I was earmarked to be the candidate by Basdio Pandey to replace Jerry Etming. And then the COP was formed and everything collapsed. In 2014, I was the candidate to go up against Terence Dial Singh in the by-election. But there was a concern that because of the votes possibly being split, with Omlala representing the ILP, they asked me to pull back to wait until 2015 general election. And then just before 2015 general election, we had this situation when I was no longer minister. So on three occasions, I've been involved in that valley of death in St. Joseph. So I understand St. Joseph well. I understand the nature of St. Joseph. I lived half my life there in St. Joseph in Valsayn Park. So as I said, there's absolutely no way that the PNM could defeat me at all, especially in a two-horse race. If it becomes a two-horse race, so be it. If not, well, then it's going to be, as I said, it's going to be very difficult. Not impossible, but it's going to be very difficult because the UNC continues to say it is possible that they could win alone, even though the history has shown that has never happened in a three-horse race. But every single political leader would. It is your right to say that we could win all 41 seats. That's your right. Being realistic, I know the importance of St. Joseph. Maybe and hopefully this can even be an avenue to assist in the alliance of the political parties. And by doing that, the UNC may very well want to go for another very critical marginal seats. And I will ensure that all the NTA supporters would support that UNC candidate to make sure that they win. It's really straightforward. So that, I think that sums up that question.
All right. So Stephen says, hello Gary, what's in place for a fair election in 2025?
Well, unlike 2023, where the Prime Minister deliberately refused to bring in international observers for a general election, that is done. And to Fox Islam, up to now, not every single question that has been asked I have answered. Maybe it is beyond your intellectual capacity to have understood what I was stating. So next time I'll draw photos for you.
Oh, God. All right, last question from Hailey. Hailey says, question, how are you going to convince the poor voters who vote PNM two-term, even though PNM is of no value to them?
Well, again, going to the same way that when I walked, as I said, Laventille, Sealots, Beetham, all of the volatile hotspot PNM areas, they have never seen their political leader there. Most of them have never even seen their member of parliament. So they were shocked to see a political leader walking in these areas. As I said, Simeon Road up the hills in Caranage, Paramin, Simeon Road in Cocorite, Scorpion, all in Caranage, Laventille, and all these places. And that is my point. I am accessible. I intend to prove to them the same way I was the only crazy public service official that gave his personal phone number to each and every citizen to let them know, if you have a problem with crime, talk to me personally if you don't trust anyone else. I intend to give them the same promise. I intend to walk the length and breadth of Trinidad and make myself accessible. It's something that the PNM hierarchy have never done, because they've used them, they've utilized them. I'm not saying it's going to cause us to win Laventille and Port of Spain, but this is definitely going to ensure that we win the marginals, and that who wins the marginals wins the election. So that is why it is I intend to convince those persons you have nothing to lose. It can't get any worse to how they have treated you. So we intend to provide you with that opportunity. Just believe and give us that opportunity.
Gary, I gotta say, every time you come in, it's always a pleasure, man.
My pleasure. Somebody just said Batson is a big shot area, but and there's a hypocrisy of callers. Yeah, but where Keith Robbie lives, up in Goodwood Park, is also a big shot area. And that's why he has, when I walk through the length and breadth of Carnage in School Street in Scorpion, they never seen him in 30 years. But you're speaking about big shot area. You know why? Because he stays from up in his house in Goodwood Park and then goes with 4 special branch armored vehicles to play golf 4 days a week in Mocha.
Gary, any closing words before you go?
No, it has been a pleasure, gentlemen. I hope that it would have cleared some matters. Unfortunately, I am a little tied in trying to say much more than I could, because, as I said, with a possibility of an alliance, I can't be going out and giving plans and policies that can next thing, it will pull back and people say, but Gary, you said so and so, why you change your mind now? So it is difficult. What we are doing, however, we are forming a transformational roadmap towards the development of Trinidad and Tobago. So the same way I was able to transform the police service, we intend to do for every arm in the public sector. But that needs buy-in with all of the alliance of parties. And I think that is going to be the engine room to align the parties. That transformational roadmap that we can all agree to, that can assist in transforming Trinidad and Tobago.
Gary, it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure.
My pleasure. Take care.
Take care.
Again. Yep.
Yep,
it is. There it is.
It is. Yeah.
He talks well. He seems to mean well. All we need now is the people to believe.
I think I'm not gonna fault him for saying stuff that could be detrimental to the alliance. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, see.
You might say things and then you have to take it back 3 or 4 months down the road. So I mean, being very diplomatic, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, even though I tell him he run me wrong bodies, yeah, I mean, I understand that too, and my partner, we tell Fox Islam, Fox.
I mean, next time he would
draw the
picture.
Oh God! So you know what? And Fox Islam can say, I'm poor thing, he quote to them on this. You know what it is, all kind of thing. But you ain't put my quote on the screen. You see, I put it up, eh? I put it up. All right. And oh yeah. This is what's he coming. All guy give it answers, he beat around the bush. Oh God. Yeah, but Tommy, we had some things earlier where we talked about property tax. And I don't know if you Lawrence the leader must have diplomacy. Lauren, welcome. I don't know Fox Islam. I think that you have to take off your red sunglasses. Because in my estimation, I believe he'll be very, very, very competitive in St. Joseph. Very competitive. What's your take, Tommy?
I think he could be successful even in more than St. Joseph. What we need is people to become more patriotic and less party-centered in order to transform Trinidad and Tobago. As long as it continues to be my party and your party and not my country and your country, things are going to be unfavorable for the population.
But you know, go ahead, Tommy.
Yeah, it has to be nation first. Go ahead.
I want to think that Philip Alexander has to understand he's not the oil that's greasing the wheel. You understand?
Yep.
He's not the oil that's greasing the wheel. And sometimes I believe that he thinks that without him, they can't win. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but he has to stop his divisive.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know. Caribbean sources, Gary is a wash-up cry. If Gary wins St. Joseph, he'll not give his seat to any party to form the government. But Caribbean Soul, if he's part of a coalition
or an alliance.
Yeah. Fox Islam say Gary to Wall Street. I think there are more. Listen, not I think. There are more people supporting Gary Griffith than there are supporting Philip Alexander. Am I inaccurate there, Tommy?
I think Gary is going to get much more support than Philip. I think you're right.
I mean, the facts are there. In the last general election, them get 5,900 votes. 5,900. In the last local election, the NTA got about what? Was it? I don't remember the amount of votes, but I'm going to look it up. I think it's about 15,000 votes, I think. Yeah? So, I mean, so anyway, folks, Lana, Nina. All right, 17,000 votes. Look, Russell just give it to me. 17,000 votes. Right? So there you go. 5,900 in a general election as opposed to 17,000 in a local government election. Night and day.
Yeah, the agenda has to become Trinidad and Tobago and not my party and your party.
You know, but Fox Islam, how do you know that the NTA votes were UNC supporters? And if they were UNC supporters, who really cares? When you go look at the ballot and you look at 17,000 votes, did they say, well, all right, 1,000 was PNM voters, 1,000 was COP voters, 5,000 was UNC voters? Do they say that? They don't say that.
I want to know if UNC supporters and PNM supporters are not Trinidad and Tobago citizens.
But I don't get that. They were UNC supporters. It just doesn't make sense. But listen, Foxism, I don't care who says it. I don't care who says it. I don't care. There's votes. All right. If the PNM get 150,000 votes, are all those votes PNM supporters? How do you know that? How do you know some people who may have supported the UNC last year didn't go and vote the PNM this year? Or some people who voted the ILP went and supported the PNM? We don't know that. You don't know that. Anyway, we got to go for a quick station break. So Fox Islam, Russell Chan, Lauren. So guys, what we normally do before we go, we normally put a closing comment in the chat. Can you put, please, all of you that are there, please put a closing comments in the chat. Bisram says, whether UNC they support Guy because UNC give him a chance. Okay. Judy says, then why Kamala have him in the UNC? I mean, if they have an alliance, right, it's because all the voters who supporting a certain party in there, but there might be other voters who disenchanted with the PNM, right? And they decide, you know what? We like Gary. We're going to vote for Gary. Or any other candidate. All right. Folks, we'll be right back. Stick and stay. Don't go nowhere. Put your closing comments in the chat, and we'll be right back after this.
You're listening to WZYE 95.9 FM. You are listening to WZYE LP 95.9 FM, the most influential name in Caribbean radio in the tri-state area. Broadcasting from East Orange, New Jersey, the most influential name in Caribbean radio. WZYE 95.9 FM.
Lauren, we want to say thank you, Lauren. And what we do here, Lauren, is that we bring politicians, criminologists, economists, political scientists, and we ask questions. We ask tough questions. We ask Gary about FUL. Yeah? We ask Gary questions and some questions, you know, he had to answer very carefully, and some questions he could answer very straightforward. Yeah? So, all you could do is do your best. But we allow people to come into the village, and it's one thing, we are very respectful when people come into the village. You know, but listen to this. We have great difficulties getting PNM people to come in here, right, Tommy?
That's right.
Yeah. We can't get. And I'm fearing people like they're afraid to come and answer any question. Yeah. But I was just, okay. Okay. Foxy. All right, we go read your closing comment. Let me come back. All right. Let me read. Capitan say, Walls, we don't need PNM. No, we have to find out what they're about.
We need everybody.
Yeah, we want to find out what they're about. We need to find out from Columbus, how come property tax is explain your wealth?
Capitan, when you think about it, you need everybody.
Yeah, we need to find out about that, Tommy. How in the world could you talk about property tax and you telling people you had to talk about explain your wealth? I don't get that, man. I couldn't, and the bad thing about it is that we couldn't even get a chance to play what the RPNM radio host talking about explain your wealth. Tommy, why? But anyway, we have tomorrow still. We go.
Yeah, tomorrow's another day. After God.
I wonder if I could play this voice message, but Tommy, give me 1 minute here. I just see a voice note that I might want to play. Let me make sure it's okay.
Go ahead.
All right, I don't have to play that one. Okay. Yeah, let me get my closing quote. Tommy, you should see we play a video on Haiti, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy. We gotta play.
Haiti's
Haiti.
in the
Yeah. My closing quote: rule number one: never go back to less just because you are too impatient to wait for better. Never go back to less just because you are too impatient to wait for better. From where I sit, this is it. The clock on the wall said that's all I like to say, but I've got to go. Remember, hard work beats talent when talent does not work hard. And for every 60 seconds of anger, you lose 1 minute of happiness. And remember, your circumstances may determine who you are, but you are responsible for who you become. See you. Same WZYE time, same WZYE channel. Tomorrow, 7 to 10 p.m. Where, Tommy?
My first quote is, in order to rise from its own ashes, a phoenix first must burn. Like I always say, that change you want to see begins with you, the man in the mirror. Or if you look in that mirror and you don't like what you see, do not blame the mirror. Never look down on a person unless you're giving them a hand up. Love you all. Be safe. We'll meet again, God willing, tomorrow. Please, God. Until then, enjoy whatever left of this Easter holiday and be safe. Love, love, love you all.
Thank you, Tommy.
It's a key.
Judy says, happy, safe week, everyone. Blessed evening. Russell Chan says, PNM voters will vote for NT as in the last local government election. Capitan said, you need a license valuation to appeal. Yeah, you do. Yeah. What? Capitan said, the radio host said that the tax oppress, but the PNM leaders are nice. All right. Eileen says, they need one banner, one title to be unified. Okay. They need one banner, one title to be unified for unity amongst voters. Caribbean Soul says, closing comment, I will not be fooled with nice conversations. When them fellas get inside, they show and talk differently when they have power. I mean, I don't disagree with that. Sometimes, Fox Islam, Russell Chan says Gary has many energy advisors. Yeah, I mean, if you're a political leader, you have to have energy advisors.
Having them is one thing, but listening to them is the other thing.
That's true too. Good evening, Ansem, Diana, and Tommy. All you guys. All right, shalom. Thank you. Russell Chan says, great program. Thanks and have a happy Easter. We need to bring back some sense of normalcy in this land. Okay. Bijram said the problem is not Gary, but to get that RPNM out of power.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I hear Kunji today, but I see KFC like they're celebrating Easter, but
It's Easter. They probably went to the waterway.
oh, they went to okay. Hailey said the alliance has to be UPN, United People Nation, period. Cannot be UNC and PEP and NTA. Now come together as one government under one nation. Okay. Lana says, closing comments, it's not about parties, it's about citizens and country. Think straight, do the right thing. Fox Islam says, my closing comment, Gary Griffith has no policy and energy, total waste of time, GG. Russell Chan says, people that normally vote will come out and vote in the next general election. Gary's the only man that can solve crime in this country. He had 45 death threats on him. He's brave and will defend the democracy of this nation, even if it's his end. There we go. Lauren says, good, impartial interview. Congratulations, guys. Okay. And lastly, Judy says, then why Kamala have him in the UNC? Okay, let me see if there's any more before we go. Hailey says, ego and pride. Closing comment. It's okay for someone to think the worst of you from first impression, but don't worry because your actions will change their opinions of you. All right? Don't get fooled by talk. Let their actions speak for itself. All right, folks? We out of here. We see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. All right? Later. And we always give you this song before we go.
This is oh Lord, Trinidad and Tobago. This is DJ Bravo. I'm hurting, you know. This is a sad place. My country turned into a sad place. When I look around, it's only sad face. Our country turned into a sad place. All I see in front of me, nightmares turn into reality. Like somebody build a monster factory. Parliament up against parliament economy. But let the moderator send another body in a drain. Somebody girl child missing, another rape again. And next road stain with somebody's son brain. Who take the S out of Port of Spain. This is a sad place. My country turned into a sad place. When I look around, it's only sad face. Our country turned into a sad place. Now with the love, with the vibes, with the hope. Not tell me something how we really want we cope. When the children breathing in too much gun smoke. And the Coast Guard can never see a boat. You sound like some goats when they come looking for votes. Hit the empty promises, reading like a horoscope. Justice for sale in a fat envelope. Politically, all the answers is a joke. This is a sad place. My country turned into a sad place. When I look around, it's only sad face. Our country turned into a sad place. All I see in front of me, nightmares turn into reality. Like somebody build a monster factory. Parliament up against parliament economy. But let the moderator send another body in a drain. Somebody girl child missing, another rape again. And next road stain with somebody's son brain. Who take the S out of Port of Spain. This is a sad place. My country turned into a sad place. When I look around, it's only sad face. Our country turned into a sad place. It doesn't matter the religion, the color, the creed, or the race. It's our responsibility to take care of our place. Champion.